deep into shadows, uncovering the light. Guests with solid minds, no tales of the strange. In Sasquatch Secrets, they'll begin to rearrange. Truth's the vibe, we're on a quest. Look beyond the trees, what do you see? Factual stories redefining history. No myths, no magic, let's break the mold. With every word spoken, the wonders unfold. Footprints in the snow, not just a myth. Data and research was sift through the pit. Tales of a creature, but science leads the way. Nikki's quest for knowledge, come join and stay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Sasquatch Secrets. I'm your host, Nikki Colon. I know it has been a hot minute since I've been on, but you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. But today's episode is called What's Happening, Hot Stuff? Because we need to discuss, what I've missed in the last couple of weeks. And I'm eager to start catching up on all and everything Bigfoot. It never sleeps out there. There's always new stuff going around. And this hiatus has been very good for me. And as you know, my husband's back from Italy for 2 weeks. So he has one more week. And we have just been on the go, visiting friends and catching up. And oh my God, the man has dozens and hundreds of photos. And it's just, it's a lot to go through. So we have been definitely catching up on all that. And we've had dates every night. It's been wonderful. I've been it's keeping me busy. And of course, we had my daughter's high school graduation, which is another big thing, along with our 25th wedding anniversary. So it's been pretty packed this week, and all good for it. I mean, I'm going to need a little vacation from the vacation. You know how they say that? So for sure, it's been wonderful. And I don't even want to think about this next week because, then he's going to be gone again. But seriously, we have discussed me moving to Italy a lot. And, the only thing keeping me back was my younger daughter, but now she's graduated. So we shall see if I can get her settled into college. Then that might be a possibility that I move out there for 2 or 3 months, not the whole time, but definitely. Do I have something on my eyeball right there? It looks like I do. I don't know if that's the camera or me for reals. Anyway, it just is amazing, right? He has been all over Europe and working a lot. Okay, he does work a lot. So, but I mean, when Venice is an hour away and he can get to pretty much anywhere in 2 hours, and he's got a little car now. He's got a little Mini. So he's like racing around like the Italian Job. Have you guys ever seen that movie? Yeah. He's scary. He's driving his truck. I've been driving his truck. So he's been driving his truck again. And I'm like, holy cow, you're scary. You stop driving like this is a Mini, because it's not. It's a very big truck. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, so what's new, everybody? Goodness gracious. Let me go to the chat because I need to say hi to everybody today. Ooh, got something stuck in my throat. Excuse me. Wow, I can't even go to the top. Sharon, of course. Hope you're still awake. Love to see you, Sharon. And Bat Mom. Wow, connecting is all done. How lame. We have been connecting, girlfriend. Yeah, I'll catch you up later. Um, we were all the way. We got some really nice gift cards for a steakhouse, so we went to the other side of town to have lunch today, and that was nice. Somebody's text. Read it then. Hold on. 1 second, folks. Okay. Let me come back here. Okay, who do we got? Who do we got? We've got Henry May. Good to see you, Henry. Thank you for all the congratulations for my daughter. She was beautiful. Everything went off without a hitch. We had a great time. The weather was very humid. It's not usual for El Paso to be humid, but it was very humid. It was overcast. So we were hot and sticky. That was not fun, standing out, waiting in lines to get into the auditoriums. It was actually at the Don Haskins Center, which is a big, venue. But so that was not fun. But, you do what you got to do. We were all in the same boat out there, trying not to sweat our makeup off. You ladies know about that. Anyway, who else do we have? Relic Hominin, good to see you. Robert Denduin, good to see you also. Yeah, I had posted, I didn't know if we were going to make it back in time from across town. We have a lot of construction going on, so it was detour after detour, but we made it in time for me to put up a promo real quick and let people know I was going to come on and say hi to everybody. The crowns. Okay, Batman. The crowns, I didn't know what they were either, but the other day I was fiddling with some of my settings and this community thing popped up. So I toggled it. That's what it is. It's the people who chat the most or drop super chats or anything like that go to the top of the leaderboard. And I don't know if I can even show it on here or if you guys can even toggle it. But on my end, I have a little community button up at the top. And when you hit that, it tells you how many points everybody has and who's at the top of the list. Like right now, Lazy Cowboy is number 1, Robert Denduin's number 2, and Batmom, you're number 3. And then it has a whole list of people behind that. And that... what is that button? I leave and everything changes. I have literally not turned on this computer in 2 weeks. So I don't know what that is. Can I not put people's things up there? Yeah, I can still put show comments on stage. Hold on. I'm going to try what this button is. Comments take the stage. Live comments from viewers will appear on screen during, down there at the bottom. I see it now. I'll leave it on. If it bothers somebody, let me know. I'll take it off. No problems. We've never had that on there before, but I'll go ahead. That was something new for me. I know if you have different systems, you could have put that on, but you have to accumulate a certain amount of hours and stuff like that to activate this kind of stuff. So I guess I did. I guess I have. One more step closer, right? To whatever. I don't know. Whatever it is I'm trying to catch up to. Okay, who else do we have who's walked in? Gary Johnson, good to see you. I said Lazy Cowboy. Sharon Guy. Hello, Nikki and everybody in the chat. The crowns are giving to everyone that comments more on your live. Yes, exactly. Robert, you're number 1. It's going to keep changing. The more you guys chat it up, the more it'll change. We've got Jen. There's Jen. Good to see you, Jen. Hope everything's going well. Blazer, finding the trackway. How are you? I was thinking about you the other day because I was having memories of British Columbia and what a good experience that was. Angel Nolan, good to see you. Mark, good day to you, sir. Good to see you. Who else do we have? Cowboy one's in the house. No Bigfoot in Italy. I don't think so. I don't think so, but I don't know. I have no idea. Let's see. Who else do we have? Lost Cryptids. There's Blake, everybody. Good to see Blake. And Tate Hieronymus. I did send you a link to join the show if you'd like. No, there's no topic tonight. It's open discussion. We can talk whatever you want, whatever's been happening in the community, whatever you like. We can take this discussion however. Bowler hat and a bowler hat instead of a crown. I don't know. I'll work on it. See what I can come up with. Let's go through the show. Other shows have it on there. Okay. Sandwich Savant, good to see you. And let's see, who else have we got? I think that might be it. I'm coming towards chat with the best. Trackway, are you trying to? Oh, he's trying to. He wants to be the top of the list there. I had some more gifts I had some Bigfoot car deodorizers that I was going to give away. I think I have some. I don't know what I did with them. I haven't seen them since last week. But there's Joe, Squatching Cowboy. Good to see you, sir. Okay, so here we go. There's a question. Squatching Sunday STM earlier was another banger. I love me some small town monsters. Let's see. Question. Do you think AI is telling us the truth about videos and information from the subject? Well, AI is just gathering information that's already out there in the world. Okay. It's about how you interpret that. Okay. It's just spitting out the information that's already there. So it's going to leave it wide open for us to take it however we want to take it. Let's see. Tate said he might be able to join. Brent said he's not home yet. He'd jump on if he's home, if he gets home. We'll see. Oh my gosh. That's the wrong place. Okay. And we all knew AI is going to get to the point where it is going to be super hard for us to look at evidence. We knew this a couple years ago. I said it myself. It's going to get better, and it's going to get better exponentially. So the more it learns, the more it'll start taking care of the silly things like the 6 toes and the double eyes. Sometimes you see a double eye or whatever it is. It's going to get better and better, so there is nothing we're going to be able to do about that because AI is going to take over the world. It's going to take over, right? We have to make the best of it. And it's just going to be harder for legit researchers to come out with any type of evidence. It's already hard, and it already has been hard because skeptics like me, I don't believe the things that just jump out or people release. But I got my first person in the back. Shall we bring them on? I think you guys are going to be pleased to see who's popped in the back. I know I am. Looky, Mr. Jeff Harding in the house. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
good. I'm doing really good.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. I know you've been busy and you've been like, I'm staying away from Bigfoot. You know,
Well,
I'm taking a break.
I have been busy. Yeah, I got two. My two sons are both in college, and there's this rat race nonstop, and
Yeah.
trying to keep up with them. Had some health stuff I dealt with. Had a lot of research stuff that I was dealing with, and that project is kind of came to a conclusion now, and maybe although I'll just spoiler alert, don't have anything huge and mind blowing to reveal to anybody, but it was interesting, some of the stuff that we did and came up with. And that will be later this summer. Kind of got away from my channel, let that go because quite honestly, I just don't have anything that I feel I can add to the subject at the moment. To be honest, when I was listening to Pat talk to the whole AI thing,
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I felt like AI could have solely been gleaning what I've been saying for the last 4 years and just developing. I mean, it didn't say that's impossible. It just said that's not likely. That isn't, which is where I've been on this for a lot, for quite a while.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it is kind of scary. I mean, the way it talks kind of logically about what, we all know that's been coming down the pike, but it's here, it's taking over, and it's works the language, okay? The way it speaks, and it's good. You could have a whole podcast doing that. I was thinking, I'm like, damn, you could literally have a whole podcast like what Pat was doing. Pat just had a show, for those of you who don't know. He was on for about an hour. About then, he was having a little bit of issues staying online, and he's just talking to AI about Bigfoot. And it was interesting. It was very interesting of how it was logically speaking, that if this is real, this would have to happen. They would have to have a population. They would have to, have enough to breed. They would, all these things. And it knows all that because all of the Bigfoot community has been AI asking questions, doing all kinds of stuff. And that just feeds into that main,
Well, and it's gleaning its intelligence from what we've been talking about. That's where it gets this information. Okay. So in a sense, it makes people who are uneducated on any given topic smarter. It is a resource for them to glean information from, but it's extracting that information from people who have been in this community on this subject and everything that's been talked about and put out there. And it's, how many facts can it actually wrap the peripheral of the discussion around? Not many. That's why you heard it using the vernacular. It's not likely. It's this, there weren't really definitive statements being made by that at all.
Yeah, it was leaving open. It was leaving open-ended. This could be, this might happen. And which is how we all talk about it, because there isn't any of that definitive proof out there.
Well, and if we're being fair, and I say this as a friend of Pat's, if we're being fair, those who have had an issue with Pat may be the fact that he has taken a harder stance on things and used verbiage of that's impossible. There's no way in hell, yada, yada, yada. It's not there. It's how he feels about it, but he's not leaving that 0.05% possibility open to something when you say it like that. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get tripped up on the things that he's saying, and I'm not talking about opinions on people. I'm talking about as it relates to the subject.
Right. And that's where stuff kind of takes a turn too, when, I wasn't there. I didn't see the Bigfoot. If you say you saw a Bigfoot, okay, you say you saw a Bigfoot. I will never have that. I'll never have the vision you had or the experience you had. None of that. All I have is your word that, okay, you saw a Bigfoot, and I'm either going to believe you or not believe you. Mm-hmm. According to your background, according to how you portray yourself. You seem honest. Have you lied before? Have you been what's the word I was going to say? Shown yourself to be untruthful? These are all that are going to come into play.
I think we see that a lot too when you talk about different people or different organizations in this subject. When you hear somebody say, well, this is my opinion of them, the opinion isn't based on what they're claiming and what they're saying. A lot of times that opinion is based on the integrity that that person or organization has built with you, aside from what we're talking about. When I hear you or somebody else say, oh, that person's legit, I don't think you're rubber stamping everything they've claimed about Bigfoot. What you're doing is saying, I know that person to be a person of integrity. I haven't found them in a lie before. I haven't seen them be deceptive before. That's not saying everything they're claiming is right or wrong.
Right.
But.
Right. Exactly. Let me see. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll try to keep up with it.
I think one of the things that, and I think this is probably an example of what we just talked about. I've shared my encounter from when I was 18 years old in 1987 numerous times online on different shows when people have asked me. I haven't really gone out and tried to make money on it. I have turned down opportunities to do that, actually. Mm-hmm. But I think what's interesting is when you take what somebody is claiming that they have experienced, and for somebody, and I'm not talking about Pat, I'm talking about anybody, for them to say, well, I believe this person, but maybe not that person. I think what's falling into place here is that one of the things that, and Pat has used my encounter as kind of a threshold of where he gets tripped. I think it'd be easy for Pat to be a non-believer, really. If you look at the skepticism and the amount of skepticism he brings to something. But I think there are instances where he'll say, and he's told me this before, he even told us this backstage, Jeff, I believe what happened to you. I just don't know how to explain it. I don't know what you were in front of at that point.
Right.
For him to be able to say, I believe that happened to you, but for him to hear somebody else say something, and let me tell you, if you've heard my encounter story, you understand this was a drawn out, really, I don't know what the right adjectives would be here, but it was exhausting. When I look back on it and I relive that, it is it's not only emotional for me, but I mean it is it's something that really was impactful on me. And it was something that I, at that age, I wanted to, in my mind, wanted to run away from, not run towards to, when it came to understanding it. The want to understand it came later for me. Mm-hmm. But I think here's the deal. I was 18 years old. I had no perception of the peripherals of this subject of Bigfoot. I had no preconceived understanding of what people say about it, what people think it is, stories. I didn't have 10,000 reports on line of online accounts that I've read through and been influenced by. I was an 18-year-old, although experienced in the outdoors, I was naive on this subject. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was not looking for this. It was probably about as remote as you could be where it happened. And I was not going out looking for something like this. And for that to be kind of the backdrop of how this occurred in my life and that experience, I think that makes it more digestible for Pat to see that than it is to say somebody went out looking for it and found it. That just feels unlikely, right? Like
right.
How can this be? You know, and I totally get that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't think it has to do with a person's personality. I don't think it's one person looking at another person saying, I don't like them. I have, you know, an attitude towards that person, and therefore I'm choosing not to believe them. I don't think that factors in at all in this case. I think it's a matter of just looking at the data and saying, if they're that elusive, if we've gone since Patterson and Gimlin till now without really anybody coming forward with something we can dissect deeper than a half an inch deep, right?
Yeah.
And still have something to cut into. How can it be that somebody can go out and orchestrate an experience and have it naturally occur? It just feels like you could buy a lottery ticket and win the lottery easier. I mean, every few weeks somebody wins the lottery, Nikki.
Right.
Every few weeks.
Exactly. But like Sandwich Savant here has a good case where he feels like it's going to ultimately weaken us as a species, that people can't even read maps anymore because all, you know, the newer generation has GPS in their phone right there. We have everything in the palm of our hands now, which we never had in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, and it's like we've gotten soft. You know, a lot of the newer people into the subject, it's, you know, it's easier to, I don't know, just believe something without having the proof. I don't know. But many of us who grew up with In Search Of and all these documentaries that were kind of old school, and you know, we need more of the proof, we need more of the videos, more of the solid evidence, and I don't know, maybe our own evidence. You know, you've seen it, so you have that behind you.
When it comes to this subject and how AI is, you know, really playing its role in it, I think that the one good thing that it brings is it brings a voice of reason, which is something our community has been lacking. If you listen to that experience, the stream that Pat was doing, the things that he was asking it, very detailed things he's asking it, and very controversial and opinionated things. Its responses, like I said earlier, were really drawn on the whole, that's a good question. You bring up a good point. That doesn't seem likely. That I don't think it's likely that this and that. It's not saying anything's impossible, but it brings a voice of reason to some of this discussion that people are going to pay attention to that maybe wasn't there before. From the entertainment standpoint of this subject, it gets out of control quickly. It gets to be clickbait. It gets to be rampant, jump on the bandwagon and believe this based on no factual evidence. Just go with it, right? I think that it does play a pretty interesting voice of reason here as far as this subject goes. The downfall of AI is how it's interacting with every other part of our lives and industry. From my standpoint, I just sold both of my real estate firms, but from a real estate standpoint, I can have AI call 30,000 people in 2 hours and ask all of them, are you looking to sell your property? And it sounds like a human. And when they, no matter what the response is, it will have a human conversation with them that for most people, they can figure it out, but a lot of people they can't. And it burns through 30,000 people looking for 5 or 6 people that say, yeah, I'll talk to you. And then it puts them in contact with me. But it takes 29,995 people and turns our industry, into the extended warranty on your car spam move, to where we've poisoned the pool with most of the people in order to find 5 people to have a conversation with. So we are burning the public perception of how AI is working in so many different ways that it's hard for some of us when we hear AI to think, hey, this could be good. This could be educational. This could be a voice of reason, you know?
Yeah, that is so true. I don't even pick up the phone if I see it's a phone number from my old address, because I have a zip code from Colorado. I don't have the 915 here in El Paso. So if it's from that old number, I know immediately, because I have no ties to Colorado anymore. So if it's that area code, block, because it is just one of those, phishing deals. Maybe we can get AI to go camping. It could probably generate a whole experience. We know it can. You just have to give it the right prompts. It will work for you for sure.
Well, if you think about 2 years ago when we were having this discussion, I really felt like there wasn't going to be any limit to what it's capable of, to a point to where we're going to have to put checks in place to where that doesn't get to be dangerous, And, I think that I will thank Pat for saying that I was right, because I don't know if anybody's ever publicly acknowledged that before, but that was kind of cool. But it felt good for a minute there, I ain't gonna lie. But I just think that we want to look at something and say the fluidity that stuff is changing and advancing is just so hard for us to wrap our heads around. The rate that technology is moving forward does not make sense to most people. It really doesn't.
Right.
What we're capable of now and what we'll be capable of in a year is like, wait a minute here. How? That doesn't make sense to me. I can't wrap my head around that.
Right. When we talk about this technology, because it's all advancing so fast. We have all these new trail cams, and a lot of them are now hooked to, the satellites, and you're getting instant feeds. And who's to say that stuff isn't getting wrapped up into all this AI and information?
Well, just to show you how fast that advanced, 2 years ago, I was spending a lot of money buying a camera that you could strap to a tree somewhere. That camera, I had to have its own cell phone plan for, so that when it took a picture, it would upload it to my phone. Just like if you were texting me, you couldn't text me that picture if you didn't have a cell phone plan, right? Every one of these cameras had to have a plan like that. And now you start looking at all the things that Elon's creating with the new, the way the internet works. And it doesn't matter if you're 1,000 feet underground, you're going to be able to get a signal and send something. Doesn't matter where you are. The idea of, I've only got 1 bar of signal isn't going to exist anymore. And you could buy 100 cameras and put them out there and not pay anything extra for them to send you a picture. They don't need a subscription to do that anymore, because you can even if you can't in everywhere right now, as soon it's going to be like a satellite phone. You can access Wi-Fi anywhere on this planet.
That's so crazy. You already have thousands of people out there who can put these trail cams out there. And where is that photo? Where's that video? We're getting a lot of animals coming out of the woodwork, a lot of things, but we aren't having the Bigfoot photos. And if we do, it's that shitty photos of somebody walking by, and then you see the zipper seam, along the side of the thing, and they're trying to call it a Bigfoot when it was evidently, you could see the thing had a jacket on.
Yeah. And even the strength of signal and how quickly it's transferring this data. It used to be I'd get a notification on my phone and I'd look. Well, it used to be that I'd go out and pull 35 cards out of cameras and put new ones in them and go home and spend, 2 weeks going through 4,000 pictures of the last 30 days, right? Now, all of a sudden, it was saying, okay, this just walked by your camera. But even if I'd look at that and look at the timestamp on my camera and look at my phone, I'd be like, well, that was 7 minutes ago, or that was 13 minutes ago. It took that long to get it to me, right? Now, when my notification on a phone goes off, I've got cameras set along trails in Montana and Idaho where elk movement and different big game move. And I'll get something that will say this camera went off, and I'll look at the picture and it's 3 elk walking in line, and I can pull up the camera for that is and look live view at the one I've got 100 yards down that trail and wait, in 45 seconds they're walking by that one.
Wow.
I mean, that's how quick the data is moving now. So from a research perspective, think about how that all of a sudden starts getting usable and connectable. You put a series of cameras around and you've got them set up in a funnel or wherever, and one of them gets a picture and you're like, wow, that looks upright. Well, I've got 14 more cameras in that line that thing's got to walk in front of.
Yeah.
And I don't have to wait 3 days to get the pictures. I can look right now.
That has got to be where we're going with all this technology, is that it's getting to where, why aren't we getting the better footage? Why aren't we getting the new PNG film? When we've got technology like that, it just makes me wonder. And why do we still have groups out there saying every time they go out, they encounter a Bigfoot?
Yeah. Well, I think that if anything, the technology is making it work against the groups that are doing that, because it just simply can't, without getting too deep into numbers and opinions, despite my experience and where it happened, I've done a show on the 9,000 hours that I have spent looking through spotting scopes in the most remote areas, and I can't find something like that again. Okay. And so with that being the case, I've already got it in my head that they simply can't exist in the population numbers that the narration wants to try to support that they do. The idea that you can go out and have an experience on command is pure science fiction. It cannot happen like that. It just simply can't. But now you start looking at the advancement of technology and drones and thermal imaging and all this stuff, and how game cameras are working, right? We used to be able to say, hey, something walks by a game camera and I look and I've got the tail of a white-tailed deer. Didn't even take a picture of the deer, right? Yeah. How in the hell is it going to get Bigfoot at 3 a.m. if he's aware that camera's there? We've gotten to where technology is so advanced now that I don't know, without some supernatural input in it, that a flesh and blood creature can remain this elusive. We are either catching this thing on the decline of population to where it existed in hard to measure numbers to almost extinctive numbers, in order to have this many people out kayaking and hiking and wilderness camping and hunting, and they're all wearing GoPros and they're all flying drones and all this stuff. And yet we can't, like you said, we can't recreate the PG film. How the hell how have we not accidentally stumbled upon this, right? Are we in that decline of a population number where it just isn't likely to happen? And if that is the most reasonable explanation as to why we haven't gotten good video, then that works against even harder the narrative that we can go out there, and if we go out there every weekend this summer, we're going to end up having an experience. No, you're not. The numbers tell us you will not.
Right. Exactly. It looks like Cowboy One is saying, how is this guy talking about the subject in the area he's in when there's really not too many reports in that area, unless it's up about a week and a half ago?
What area would you be talking about? In the areas of Idaho and Montana? I can tell you right now, in the northern third of Manitoba, where I had my experience in 1987, if you look at the number of reports that are given in that area, it's not a lot. I mean, it's nothing like Washington State or, Florida or all this stuff. It's not that lot. But I'm going to tell you, it's a different kind of wilderness too. You look at the number of people moving through your typical square 10 miles in a given 30-day period, it's almost non-existent in those areas. If this thing is flesh and blood, and for it to exist, it has to be elusive. You do not have a better area to be elusive and remain undetected and avoid confrontation and not get caught in the headlights of a passing vehicle than in some of these wilderness areas where there simply aren't a lot of reports. You get in those remote areas of Idaho and Montana and things like that, and up in Manitoba and Saskatchewan and stuff, not a lot of reports. But I'll tell you what, I can go out there and I can walk for 3 days straight and not come across another human being for 3 days. Go get on the Appalachian Trail and try to walk anywhere for 3 hours and not see another human. Right. It's a different type of remote. It's a different type of remote wilderness in some of these areas. And I think that's why you just don't have those numbers that you do in some others. But
can't make a report if you're not there, and then people who do tend to live in those isolated areas do not tend to tell people about their sightings.
That's a whole nother human element of, a lot of people in those areas, they accept that they're there. And it isn't like, like if you went out and had an experience while you were hunting, or you heard something that wasn't familiar to you, or you thought you saw something that didn't make sense,
Yeah.
In the back of your mind, it kind of does make sense, because the amount of people that you know in those areas that have those experiences, you don't feel compelled to run and call Ripley's Believe It or Not and say, guess what happened to me today, you know?
Yeah. Real common and say, I think the channel's called Snow White Bigfoot or something. Yeah. Snow White Bigfoot took a turn many years ago. The claims and all the crap that would come up on her back porch and all that stuff.
No,
there's nothing that showed me it was a Bigfoot doing it. Zero. I think what made me leave was I think she was the one that said there was a portal in her pampas grass. She had a big thing of pampas grass growing, and there was a portal.
Honestly, Nikki, the only way in my mind that something like that can exist on a, I should say, if the number of occurrence moments happening in a given period of time, the only way that could exist is for there to be a supernatural element involved here.
Yeah.
And I'm not advocating that that's the case or not. I'm just saying I don't know how, from a flesh and blood perspective, that could be.
Yeah. All the people. Let's see. Blake says a number of reports that Bigfoots will open doors and get into buildings and barns, not only taking but also returning tools back in the notable places. That's bullshit. That's baloney. I don't think any of that happens.
Well, let's just break this down from a forensic angle. To make that claim and be fairly confident that you believe it's Bigfoot doing it, how do you arrive at that short of having a picture of it, a recording of it, an audio of it, something?
Right.
What are you, how are you getting from A to B in that analysis without being able to have something like that? If I go out in my shop and I'm missing shit, and the next day that shit is back there, I'm looking at my drunk friend came over and grabbed my shit and used it and brought it back and never asked me. I'm not looking at Bigfoot came in here. How do we get there? I don't understand that.
We did get somebody to pop into the back. I'm going to bring them on real fast. Hey, Pat, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
So it ended up, we're continuing your topic from earlier.
That's cool. I mean, that's kind of like we used to be like years ago. Like we would always, we carried stuff on, you know, about how much Jeff was wrong and I was right. And we would always, like, every show was like, no, Jeff, you're wrong, I'm right. And then, well, tonight the script flipped on me.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, it's an ongoing topic. We've talked about it before, but we're seeing it more and more, and it's getting where people are using it as this is real. You know, this is really real, and there's nowhere for us to say to stop it. You know, it's not gonna just disappear. It's just getting better, and
it's so it was super uncanny. I've had these conversations with AI, and I was like, man, I gotta do this live. Like, I would just be doing it here, right? You know, not live. And I'm like, it's so uncanny valley shit going on. Even though sometimes it's canned, it's like it comes across as real canned answers, but every now and then it's like it'll surprise you. But I just think that it's like the whole message I'm trying to convey. And of course, Jeff, you're always so much more articulate than me because I'm very passionate. I know that about myself. Is that it's the unlikelihood. And yes, sometimes I say there's no way. That's impossible. And you're full of crap and blah blah blah. But you know, um it's just I see so much delusion and entertainment based stuff that I don't know. I guess I'm spilling my guts all at once here. Um I just
Well,
man,
I think it takes, first of all, I think it takes a lot to be able to say there are discussions that we've had in the past, and some of them have blown up into, not amongst us, but people in the chat losing their minds over, how can you say it's impossible that this or that? Are you calling me a liar? No, it's just unlikely. It's unlikely that I should have ever have had the experience that I had. That is highly unlikely. I believe I could go back into the wilderness, and I have hundreds upon
right?
hundreds of times,
I know.
and not recreated something like that. I've never had that happen again. And so
You probably never
for me to
will.
say it's unlikely, I'm not saying, and I think that's where we glitch here. A lot of people want to hear what you're not saying, not hear what you are. Okay.
Right.
What I'm not saying is that just because it didn't happen to me doesn't mean it couldn't have happened to you. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say this person didn't have that experience or that person didn't have that experience. I'll tell you right now, it's unlikely. And you know what? If I was sitting here hearing myself tell me about the experience I had in 1987, my response would be, that's unlikely. I'm not treating anybody any different than I would treat myself hearing this. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying you're full of shit or you're crazy. I'm saying it just isn't likely. And that should be able to pertain to every real, credible experience that somebody claims to have had. You should be able to say that's not likely. It's just unlikely that would happen, and have that be a valid point. It should not be calling somebody's mom fat or calling somebody a liar to say that.
I never said either one of those things. So here's my problem with that. Maybe it's an emotional thing. So why I get frustrated is because of what I see, and what I see is a sea of BS. I see as the narratives. It has to be wrong, unless they're magical beings, right? Like, so if they're from planet Hairtron, all bets are off. No doubt about it. But other than that, undiscovered primate and all this stuff, I just see the psychological problems in human beings around this subject. And I'm like, it's so hard to pick the nuggets of truth out of that. Like, it's a monumental, like, impossible task. And unless you get to know somebody, and I don't have time for that. It just so happens, Jeff, that I've got to know you over the years, that we collided in this, subject together, right? I don't have time to go out and like find the back and forth girl and go, is she real or not? And like, or this person or that person, like, I can't vet all these people. It just so happens I've met somebody in my life, and you're not the only one. There's others. Okay. There are others who is like so compelling. We could shoot pool, we could drink beer, we could talk music, we could talk chicks, whatever. And it's that casual. And I'm like, dude, I believe you. So that's a nugget of truth for me. I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't think you're lying. So do you see? But my point is that the sea of like what's, every wood knock and every howl and every whoop, which I've clearly been able to discover is like a delusional Bigfoot on the brain thing that happens. And so to separate the truth from the nonsense, clear nonsense, is hard to do, man. I mean, I don't have time to vet every single.
But okay, so but now, to be fair, if and I'm only going to just to help people understand the point that I'm making, I will put names to it. Okay, if I was to say Brian's experience that he's claiming that he had, or Daniel's experience that he's claiming that he had, or anybody else, if I was to say that seems unlikely, understand that I think that's a fair statement, in that I would say that about my own experience. I would expect people to say that about my own experience. You know why? Because it's true. If somebody has an experience where they see Bigfoot, or they truly believe that they saw or had an encounter, the first thing they should be able to say is, that really wasn't likely that was going to happen. If you can't admit that, we have a problem here. We have a fundamental problem, that if you thought it was going to be likely that was going to happen to you, problem. So to say that it's unlikely, I don't think that's hate speech, so to speak. That's just being honest about it, right? Yeah. That's looking at the circumstances, looking at the narrative, looking at and factoring in all the other people who are out there bullshitting about it. You might have somebody claiming to have a real experience, or at least what they believe to be a real experience. And what I have to look at and say, wow, that's unlikely. First of all, that should be a compliment to the fact that, let's take a closer look at this. There may be something here, because it shouldn't be likely if it's authentic. It shouldn't be likely. You shouldn't have believed that would happen.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're looking for them, which is that gets into the mathematical part of it.
That now I get where fundamentally that is your hang up here. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of led into where, I don't know how many conversations I've had with you, Pat, to where you're borderline like non-believer. Like you're looking at all the hard facts of data and saying, this doesn't support the narrative. There's no way this can be possible. I really feel strongly that this is getting crazy. All the people making claims, and there's just no data to support it. But then you look at what you've heard me share with you and say, I believe that happened to you, Jeff, but I don't know how to freaking explain it. I don't know what the hell you stood in front of that day, right?
I don't know. And my best theory at this point right now, because I still think the possibility of undiscovered primate, my best theory I can come up with is that the most believable stories that I've ever heard in my entire 20 years of like looking into Bigfoot shit, the most believable come from decades ago. Mm-hmm. Like the least believable come from now. Or
that's why I'm really tripped up on this idea that we are in a declining factor here.
Extinct. I say they are not here anymore. Or if they are, here's the thing. Here's where the logic circles back, always back to the narrative and point where I come from. I'm sitting here going, they're
let me bring somebody else into the picture here. And we have Blake, Lost Cryptids, in the house. How are you doing?
Lost a little weight there, looks like.
Yeah, about 3 or 4 pounds, I'd say.
Couple pounds. I'm doing pretty good, guys. Actually, it's nice to
good seeing you.
Be back and stuff.
Yeah, it's like walking into a time warp here. It's like I feel that we haven't had a conversation amongst some of us for a while, but
to finish my point, my best theory right now would be, for an undiscovered primate in North America, upright walking, they're either extinct or on the verge of it, which would mean that they're not showing up to every Bigfoot camp out, and
it should mean that the way the narrative existed 20 years ago, it should look different now if that was the case.
And it's not. It's more.
It's increasing probably 50-fold. From where it was.
They're here. They're there. They're everywhere we go. We're Bigfooters. We show up. They show up.
Now let me just interject here. This is some data that I saw the other day that I thought, when I first read this, immediately I'm applying it to the Bigfoot conversation. I've seen a professional golfer in a conversation say the amount of pro golfers, and I mean pro golfers, that have hit a hole-in-one ever in a golfing tournament is like less than 10%. And yet, if you went out and asked people who golf, who are in their 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and said, how long have you been golfing? And they say 20, 30 years, say, have you ever hit a hole-in-one? Over half of them will tell you that they've hit a hole-in-one at some point. Right. Yeah, it was 13 years ago. It was raining like hell. And everybody's got a story about how they hit a hole-in-one, right? Yeah. But less than 10% of pro golfers have been recorded hitting a hole-in-one. Now, if that's the case, we start seeing a narrative that is applicable. Fill in golf with whatever subject you want to. People feel like this is something that they can take a story and either manufacture it out of nothing, or simply take something where I heard something, it was probably an owl, it likely was an owl, but I'm going to bend it and contort it into having mystery and leave in this mysterious unknown to the way I'm going to tell it and whatnot. And they contrive this stuff. And they do so because they feel it will be believed and accepted, just like half them golfers claim that at some point in their life they've hit a hole-in-one. Who are you to say that I didn't? Who are you to call me a liar? And for some reason, that has grown and amplified to where the narrative swells while the data shrinks. The real data shrinks. If you look at the number of videos that were coming forward 30 years ago, 20 years ago, not talking about back in Patterson, but you talk about Freeman and all the different videos and the different things that were being offered to say, let's take a look at this and dissect it. That wasn't AI. This is either somebody in a suit or somebody filming something from an obscure angle, or somebody getting 10 actors having a conversation, all sounding legitimately startled, right? Like, could you really orchestrate that? There had to have been some production to get this to happen. And so we would dissect it. And in the end, it was hard to say 100% bullshit or 100% real. Everybody felt divided somewhere because there was no definitive way to squash it. But now with AI, I can create that production in 30 seconds. Okay. And where do we go with that?
Getting pretty good, especially with the one that Pat showed. It was actually pretty funny.
To be clear, when I question the narrative, I'm not calling people liars per se. My opinion is that there's a mass delusion. Is that Bigfoot on the brain is a very powerful thing, and it's always a Bigfoot activity, or that sometimes people can get hoaxed and misidentify all that kind of stuff. Like, so I don't. There are definitely people I could accuse of being hoaxers and liars. I think that's a smaller percentage. I think the mass majority of the narrative is built upon built upon Bigfoot on the brain. So I'm not calling people liars.
No. But Pat, don't you think that it is, like you always say, it's a people thing, and we, like, you know, Jeff, you have a certain amount of respect for him, and therefore his encounter may hold a little more weight for you than others. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I mean, it's because I know Jeff. I've gotten to know Jeff over the years. I consider him a friend. I know that I could talk music with the guy, I could shoot pool with the guy, I could drink beer with the guy.
I think that's where there's a disconnect sometimes, though, is that I don't know a lot of these people, and I don't know about their encounters or what they have seen. So I tend to just let it be, unless that encounter starts to put out what they are calling evidence, whether it be a stump squatch, something blurry in the background, howls or noises in the woods that you cannot link audio to Bigfoot unless you have a video of it happening, folks. So, that's where my skepticism comes in. It'll always be focused on the evidence that people portray, not the encounter stories. That's their thing. That happened to them. Fine. You could say, the spaghetti monster or the what is it? The what does Brent say? The squid, the octopus.
The tree
octopus.
And he almost
pulled that, whatever. But you have to have that trail.
So the reason why, it's because I know Jeff and all that. It's the threshold, which he touched on earlier. Broad daylight, I don't know, 20 feet, right? 20, 30 feet, something like that. Broad daylight. So there's zero chance of a hoax. There's zero chance of a misidentification. Jeff's either lying or he's not. And so that's my threshold with a sighting. Anything beyond that, it was night, dark, shadowy figures, I heard whoops, any of that stuff is not even in play, not even close to being in play.
It's what Brian's asking here, so disregard any encounter from anybody you don't know. Let's look at it from an investigative standpoint, and let's just use common sense in this. First of all, if I have a report coming in from somebody who has a Bigfoot channel, and that weekend they were going out with two other people that have Bigfoot channels, and they were getting together at a Bigfoot whatever get together that weekend, and that night they were going to go out and look, and they had an experience, versus somebody who has no experience in this. And let's say it's a sheriff's deputy who's driving at 3 a.m. and something crosses in front of the road, and he's claiming that this happened. Now, let me ask you here. The first thing I start examining is, what do you have to gain and what do you have to lose? It's motive, okay? If I say to you, did you kill that person or not? And you're the beneficiary on that person's life insurance, okay? And you say, well, I don't have a reason I'd do that. The first thing I'd say is, well, wait a minute, you stood to profit if you did, right? I mean, we've seen that in every courtroom show ever. So is there motive, right? And when you start looking at a sheriff's deputy saying he saw something cross in front of the road that was upright and over 8 foot tall, whatever, what he has to lose bringing that forward far outweighs anything he has to gain. If he wants his job, if he wants to provide for his family, if he wants to be respected by his fellow officers, he won't say a damn thing about what he saw. If he's coming forward saying, this happened, I seen this, there's some integrity that exists in the background of how I'm looking at the source of that report. It's not 5 guys drinking beer at the Bigfoot conference, and that night they went out and they each paid $150 to go with Cliff or whatever, and they saw this. Okay, the bullshit flags are raining from the sky at that point.
Yeah,
if you start looking at the narrative versus the elusivity that it would have to be and the numbers it would exist at. So when we start looking at the sources, I think it's easy for Brian to look at this and say, so you're saying that because you know Jeff, Pat, you believe him, but somebody else you don't. No, I think what Pat's saying is that at 18 years old, I had nothing to gain from this. I had no preconceived narrative of what this thing should look like, what it should be.
You weren't a Bigfoot
like that. Nothing.
Well, and another thing is like experience too. You know, you have a lifelong experience of being a hunter and guide and stuff, so that kind of adds to it. A lot of people out there, they don't have experience. They're just out there. A lot of them are like city people, I would say, just out there and Bigfoot. So
that's
everything's
like in the
you don't know it's a coyote.
Source,
you're not hearing an owl.
That's the second thing I'm examining. Is the threshold of experience and reference to what
that's what's lacking. A lot of people are lacking that because even though they're out there trying,
what I was told.
They're not learning about coyote sounds, owl sounds, deer sounds, grunts, everything. You know? You should be like, as soon as you hear something, oh yeah, it's this, it's that. It's
when
that.
Somebody says,
what is this?
Sounded like this, it sounded like that. Right away, I'm thinking, how often do you get in the outdoors? How many days a week are you there? And when somebody says, oh, we were out in the middle of nowhere, talk about a naive perception of what that would be. Because for some people, if they're 2 miles from the nearest convenience store, they're in the middle of nowhere. If they've walked from the developed campground where 15 other campers are having fires and singing Kumbaya, and they have walked past the porta potties a few hundred yards and can no longer see a light, they are in the wilderness. That is not wilderness. Yeah. Most people don't understand what remote wilderness looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in the continental U.S., you unlikely have remote wilderness unless you're in the Pacific Northwest.
This last year, when I was spending some time in the Bitterroot Mountains of Idaho, the one thing, and I talked about this, there's a part in the Bitterroot Mountains that has the highest population of grizzly bears. And it's because it's very hard to access. It's unfriendly terrain. It's hard to navigate this terrain. It is unforgiving to be in that area. It is tough. And yet that's where the highest population of grizzly bears are. There is a reason why those stats align. Because they get in those areas, they aren't disturbed by humans. They don't want to be around humans. They don't prefer that. And why are they there more so than 30 miles away where there's still mountains and still wilderness? Because it's hard to get there. People don't just go wandering into those areas. And I think that when you look at the elusivity that these would have to exist at from a flesh and blood standpoint and remain undetected, absolutely, you have to heavily factor in, will I spend most of my life in an area that is hard to access? That's not campgrounds. That's not 10 miles from a convenience store.
And it's not, which is hundreds of thousands of people live in the 6 or 7 county area. Also,
now I will factor in that if it's a flesh and blood living creature, and especially if it has a upright hominid, similar, I'm not going to say try to compare thought patterns to humans, but some characteristics you could probably compare. Okay, the curiosity of things. Maybe it is intrigued. Maybe it does get caught with its pants down. Maybe it does put itself in a position. Maybe when it runs out of resources in one area and it needs to travel 140 miles to get to where there's another area of resources, that in that A to B flight, in the dark, overnight, whatever, trying to be elusive, somehow it does get caught on a game cam, or it does get in the headlights, or it does whatever. But my point is that's not the majority of its life. 95% of its life should be in a hole that people can't get to.
Well, none of
inhospitable terrain.
None of
I mean,
that could be common.
If people don't believe that Bigfoot even exists in their backyard, I mean, they're not going to really look for it. I mean, it's almost like modern camouflage for it to just be there. And, you know, I mean, that's why there's reports of them watching people through windows, and, you know, people see them like right here in Monroe, Michigan. That's just south of Detroit. A lot of people would laugh that impossibility, but, you know, I went out there. The people said that they witnessed things. I found some physical evidence of something in the area, but
so
it doesn't mean Bigfoot, but
yeah,
their story's pretty
compelling.
I think.
So doesn't make it true. And
no, I jumped out of the tree and like went after them a little bit. The dog chased them up the railroad tracks,
and the unlikeliness of
there was stuff there, but
dude, if again millions of people live in that area,
it's surrounded. Actually, it's in the town, but there's a swampy terrain and the canal that goes to the lake.
Primates don't do well in swamps. There's virtual
only because they have predators to be fearful of, and they don't.
Well, they have predators to be fearful of everywhere. However, underwater you can't identify the presence.
Right, but they grew up with crocodiles and stuff.
Yeah, no,
but they're afraid of.
So I want to address this real quick.
I mean, it just depends.
Primate that lives in the swamp.
Ristel said, Pat, how can you declare Brian, Daniel, and Chris sighting as an elk or bear when you haven't ever seen the doc? But there, Ristel, just so you know, I don't know if you're privy to any back information, but there's more information about this that has been going around. I don't know if you're privy to it or not, but investigations and things that happened immediately after that sighting that draw suspicion. Okay. I can't tell you where it came from. I won't tell you where it came from because I was told not to tell people where it came from. But there's a lot more information out there that eventually it might come out, and maybe it won't. I don't know. But I don't really care because I just don't talk about it. Pat has mentioned it. But there is more information out there about some of this stuff. And unfortunately, not everybody's going to know about it because we've been told not to talk about it. I don't want to create any heat or any disillusion for Brian or that group, or, you know, especially for Daniel. I think he's doing his thing. That's great. I'm not going to do anything to discourage that. So, but there's more information. This just didn't come from Pat's mind out of nowhere. There is more stuff out there. So you need to go back and start hitting up a lot of different places and asking people, because there are definitely more people out there that know more information, but I can't tell you. So I won't. So that's that. I just to be clear. Okay.
Thank you.
About attacking, I don't know what Pat said or done to attack Daniel. I don't know what you've said. So.
Nothing really. Nothing.
Unfortunately, you know, all the stories and stuff, you know, the evidence and proof of burdens on the people, and it's hard to get evidence of Sasquatch, especially a video or thermal and stuff. So unfortunately, a lot of people want to make money, want to be in the spotlight, don't have experience. And there's some people that can steer other people who are not experienced into believing there's Sasquatch encounters going on when there's nothing going on. And there are people who might be con artists and like to do that. And
if there's an upright walking undiscovered primate living in North America in 2025, it's actually not that hard to get evidence. It wouldn't be that hard with the right effort. Not people,
the drones.
Yeah, not like.
Well, I got a thermal now, so
not people going out in the woods going, I'm looking for Bigfoot. Like, not that. Again,
that's not what your AI said.
Again, we're Yeah, it is actually. The AI backed me up pretty well.
It was actually really good. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of flip the script moments. I'll say kind of canned, like a little too canned response. AI's polite. It's designed that way. All right. You know, you can't say ninja. You can't say gun. You know, so like AI is very politically polite. But an undiscovered upright walking hominid, which, okay, number one, let's all admit, it'd be the most amazing biological discovery in human history. Period. Bigger than dinosaurs, bigger than unlocking the D-Day genome code for even ourselves. It would be amazing biological discovery. And so, therefore, how in the hell can something like that exist among us without assigning it magical powers? You know, it would have to be rare and elusive, which that alone kills the narrative. That alone kills the, I went looking for Bigfoot and I found it. Like you
Right.
of 300 people, you know, you of like 1,000 people. Like, how
it's hard to explain. Maybe there's a, yeah, well, I mean, there's UFO videos coming out from the government, whistleblowers, and you know, there's Elon and a bunch of people making tunnels under the earth. You would think maybe they hit a nest of Bigfoot underground. You know, why hasn't anyone come out with video about that? But I mean, maybe there's a reason why the government's always downplaying it, laughing it off. I mean, they show more interested stuff in UFOs than Bigfoot.
Just, I mean, to say a reason why is just leave an open. Like,
well, they would think
there's
government, there's departments of interior that DNR that you should have encounters with these things if they're out there, even no matter how elusive they are.
I mean,
they can attract every other animal and stuff. I mean,
sure. I mean, possibly
state police investigating stuff. I mean,
sure. And so, give those.
And there has to be attacks too, like natural animals. Humans will come in conflict. There has to be attacks. There has to be car crashes. I mean, but it's never valid. It's never on the news. I mean, but so don't you think statistically there must have been some instances that have happened that are violent?
Statistically, absolutely. There is a redneck that should have blown one's face off by now.
Well, and you're always gonna hear about the bad situations, and you don't hear about the 1,000 times there wasn't a bad situation. For instance, the guy who was just a couple of weeks ago was mushroom hunting in Wyoming and had a grizzly charge him and had to shoot and kill it. And he was with a friend of his mushroom hunting, and luckily he was armed with a big enough gun to do this. They were prepared that this could happen someday. And after 15 years of hunting mushrooms, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know what you don't hear? You don't hear about the 25,000 people that were out within 100 miles of that area mushroom hunting so far this year that weren't attacked by a grizzly bear. They may have been around one, and that grizzly said, "Don't want to be around this human," and it walked the other way. It had to be such a controlled storm of perfect chaos for that situation to happen, because it didn't happen to 25,000 other people who were mushroom hunting that month, right? So, you know, we hear about these situations, and it also would lead me to believe that if you said, "Hey, look at these tracks, this is a grizzly bear," or "Look at this shit on the ground, this is a grizzly bear," or "Look at this deer kill, this is a grizzly bear." If I say, "Prove it and get me pictures," because in my mind, you could fake those tracks. You could make something up and put prints in the ground and make it look like a grizzly bear if you're really good at it. Okay, prove to me it's a grizzly bear. Now it's on you to go out and film a grizzly bear, and I don't care if you're in Montana or where, You're gonna go do that. You know how freaking hard that is. I mean, anybody can go out and find a footprint, right? But we're talking about filming something that there are literally thousands of in North America. It's not easy, but yet it happens. Go search on YouTube right now and say video of a grizzly bear. I'll find 1,000 clips of great real videos of grizzly bears.
10,000
videos.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's where we're falling through the cracks on the narrative, especially to where the technology is now. At some point, that gap, how does it exist without having an explanation of existence? I don't get it.
And
how does it exist for all the amateurs and stuff, but none of the actual professionals have ever got photographs and stuff, right? Who have the best of cameras, experience, are out there photographing all these other animals from National Geographic, all these other environments. They've never got.
Nobody's gotten a photograph of Bigfoot.
But amateurs like all of us and stuff, or having experiences, or trying to get evidence, are actually
maybe you're not having a Bigfoot experience.
What I'm saying, like, it seems like there's more of us actually doing the stuff, having experiences,
right? So if you
these professionals who are actually out there in these environments trying to get these pictures, but they're not.
What kills me about the Bigfoot world is you hear a whoop, you hear another whoop, and then 3 knocks or whatever, right? And you're like, oh shit, that's a Bigfoot. Well, if you heard it, it's probably within 100 feet of you. Time to bust out the spotlights. Everybody get out there and, flank, pincer these things. Like that.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. You go walk over there and then nothing happens.
Why doesn't it work? Yeah.
But what makes a tree knock? It's not a deer picking up a stick. It's not a woodchuck.
Why it didn't work, because it's not
a raccoon.
It's not a Bigfoot there. That's why.
Well, trees don't pop that often enough to make tree knocks, and owls don't drop.
Yeah, but my point is,
squirrels aren't throwing
if you're implying that it's actually Bigfoot there, nobody ever.
Well, it's something. I think I'm beginning to say it's just
or goes after
something unnatural is going on, or a mystery. What's making these tree knocks, because it's not an animal, and if we can rule out humans, and it's not a tree, it's not cold, it's not windy.
Well, you're trying to explain the unexplained.
No, we're trying to eliminate nature and reality. I mean, it's like.
Well, then you're only left with the unexplained. You're not left with Bigfoot.
True. But what else is out there? You want to say ghost did it or UFO did it?
I don't know. Are you telling me that Bigfoot's out there?
That's if you're in an area where there's supposed sighteds. I mean, isn't that what likely it's supposed to be? Or maybe it's a dog man. But
not at all. Like,
do they have paws or do they have fingers? I mean,
I don't know. I don't ever fall back on Bigfoot reports, because. But
there's stuff out there. I mean, like you said, you can't explain tree knocks if there's no wind. And you can eliminate natural causes in animals. I mean,
yeah, but that's
and humans.
That's subjective to your personal experience, their personal experience.
Well, I mean, we've walked into a spot and it sounds like a baseball bat cracks off, and it's on camera, and it's like
I saw dancing white Christmas lights in the woods. How do you explain that? I saw it. It was fucking.
But but Pat, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was playing Blaine Highcheck's audio recordings from Angleworm Lake.
Yeah. I mean,
on that recording, he has 3 different tree knocks coming from 3 different directions while he's in a tent in the middle of nowhere up in the Boundary Water area with his girlfriend that they literally by foot hiked 32 miles into. And they were so far off the grid at that point that he put audio recorders out, and he has these. And when I played them for you,
I had a reaction.
You know what your reaction was. Sure. So
there's a difference between twigs and pops and something smacking a tree like a baseball bat and stuff. Well,
I'll tell you this:
a deer doesn't do that.
I get it, dude. Again, like like a deer doesn't do that kind of thing. Okay. I don't know.
I don't care what it is. It's cool, right? It's something. If we can figure it out, it's going to be a breakthrough.
I've had,
if we actually have a deer picking up a stick and doing it, that would be awesome too.
You know, I've had what certainly any Bigfooter would describe as a wood knock experience. Where I'm at right now, no way that was a Bigfoot. I'm not sure what it was, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, the least likely thing is that it was Bigfoot, that it was nature, or maybe somehow in a weird way somebody fucking with me, which doesn't make sense. It's one of those things like, man, that doesn't make sense, you know. But the most likely thing would be a person doing that to me rather than a Bigfoot. I'm there now.
What I don't get though is we're talking about audio, and we have this existence in audio, or let's say class B, okay?
Yeah.
But the existence in sight or photograph or video or just sight, it does not exist anywhere near what the reports of audio does. And I'll give you an example. You take a guy who flies a float plane up in Alaska, and 750 times a year, several times a day during hunting season, he's flying clients into remote areas and dropping them off into nowhere land. You can't get there by roads. And then he's picking them up and flying them out and picking them up. And they have video upon video upon video taken out of his plane of moose running along, grizzly bears running along, caribou run, every freaking vertebrate mammal in that area. They've got videos of over and over, and they don't have a Bigfoot. How can that be? And yet we say, well, I hear these knocks and deer can't make those sounds. So what are they? It seems like we're talking about the existence of something we hear audibly existing on a different scale of anything you would be able to see visually. Huge. And I'm not sure why. For everything that's out there making those sounds, eventually you should see them.
Yeah. And we don't have examples of that in the natural world of these sort of, like tree knocks and stuff from other animals.
Yeah.
In North America, I would say at least.
It doesn't look, natural variability is off the charts.
Well, it's a phenomenon. I mean, I think that the audible things that people hear that they can't attribute naturally to a sensible way of that being made, other than there has to be something like this involved. That's a phenomena. That it's a true phenomena, because I would agree that a deer can't really make that sound. Okay. But then again, I will say this. I've heard the expansion of a tree when it's cold to warm and warm to cold pop louder than shit, to a point where it almost scares the hell out of you when you hear it.
Yeah.
And yet that will not, you could say, Blake, when you heard that stuff, the temperature wasn't changing, right? So that, how can that be?
It was in summer.
That's a valid response to that. But I'm just going to say, I've heard sounds that didn't have a physical upright something standing there beating the shit out of a tree to make that sound.
Yeah, sure. I've heard it. I've heard the wood knock phenomena, and I'm pissed at myself for having Bigfoot on the brain in that moment, because it clouded my judgment. It clouded my curiosity. Like, I had no curiosity. I just went into afraid mode. And again, right now, I'll say that wasn't a Bigfoot. It was either a person messing with me or just known natural phenomena happening. And I wish I had been more curious. Because curiosity is how you solve the mystery. Period. You only solve mysteries.
That's a great point. That's one of the things that Pat is talking about all the time, is in our conversations that we have on the side, or, you know, after the show when we're all sitting here shooting the shit afterwards, we kind of talk about what was discussed on the show and comments and people's perceptions of things and explanations of things. And Pat, I don't know how many times I've heard him say, I don't know, how do you explain what you saw? Because I can't. When I spend 9,000 hours looking through a spotting scope, and I've seen every natural freaking vertebrate mammal out there in Montana and Idaho and Wyoming and Manitoba, hundreds of times each for everything, and I haven't seen one through a spotting scope while out there. And if I'm going to play just that raw data of numbers, the 700 or 800 nights out in the wilderness, spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day looking through spotting scopes at remote areas, at things that have no clue that I'm sitting on that ridge watching them. They don't know I'm there. They have no clue.
Yep.
I've got the vantage point all day long, day after day after day, and I haven't seen one. And not in that way. And it just, I have to look at that, and I look at what I experienced in 1987 and say, how could that happen when I've spent 9,000 hours here and I can't get this to recreate? I can't find physical evidence to support what happened to me that day. I wrestle with that all the time. But I will tell you, that does influence my opinion that we're looking at a declining species, and that throws the narrative into a tailspin.
Big time. It's a numbers game. I mean, what are the odds that if you won the Powerball next week, that you would win it again ever in your lifetime? It's virtual zero. Because it's virtual zero to begin with, that you would ever win it. So
I don't know what Cowboy's getting at. What is he trying to ask me a question here? Or he can't explain Bigfoot from what he saw. Story-based crap from back in the day.
That sounds like oh shoot, what was the name of that guy? That sounds familiar. That comment sounds very familiar to me.
Well, he can't. I mean, can you explain it? I mean, what it looked like? It looked like an upright walking primate, right?
Over 3 years.
I mean,
3 years ago, we had a conversation, Pat, and you said, "Is there any chance that could not have been a Sasquatch?" And I will tell you that I did not misidentify what I stood in front of. I'm not saying that I can identify it, but I did not misidentify it.
I
was not in front of a bear. I was not in front of a moose. I was not in front of a guy in a suit. I was not in front of a grizzly bear. It was none of what I knew of. And I was an outdoor person who spent a lot of time hunting, even at that younger age. So, but now if you're asking me, can I attribute it to what it was? We had that discussion, Pat, and I said, I'd put up maybe a 5% chance that it wasn't a Sasquatch. And you said, well, what would it have had to have been? And I said, it would have to have been something that plays into this phenomena that we see in nature, where that one lake in one province of Canada, the lake trout grow 22% bigger than all the other lakes around. There's something happening in that small biosphere, that something evolves out of the space that it should be by species should be contorted into.
Right.
And I use to reference that, if we went to a Aborigine tribe in Africa where nobody's over 5'4", and you walked into town with Shaquille O'Neal with you, they'd all have a freaking heart attack. They wouldn't believe they're looking at a human being. It would not look right to them. And so I would throw a 5% chance that maybe I'm looking at some type of a feral human that has evolved out of its niche in some way. I don't know how else to explain that. I don't think that's likely. I think that's highly unlikely. But I don't have the evidence to support and show you that that couldn't have been the case. I don't know.
What do you think the intelligence level was of that creature you seen? You know, like, was it a bear? Do you felt like it was like instinct level of a bear, or do you think it was like intelligently thinking and
I think
like
that,
a human?
You know, I have all these things, Blake, that I talk about in real time, how I was analyzing it at that time, when I'm sharing when I'm conveying to my friends what I saw, and then later it's on the beach and they see it. I think about how I process that then, and I think about how I look back at it as a 56-year-old person now who's got a lot more outdoor experience. And I would tell you that in retrospect, I think this thing has likely seen humans from a distance. It's seen boats on that lake before, even as remote as it is. I think it had been around humans. I had heard from that Inuit guide that shared with me that he had an experience that year prior to me on that island that I was on that same island. I think this thing probably had experiences with humans, but I don't know that it ever stood 20 feet in front of one. When I think about how it reacted, I almost feel like this thing was as in as much shock as I was, probably. I don't think that it was comfortable around me, but I don't think it was distressed and panicked either. And in order for it not to have one extreme or the other, I almost feel like it had to have been caught in a situation where it was as puzzled as I was.
Yeah. And I mean, they would have to be intelligent hominids. Like, that's the only answer. That obviously they cannot have the intelligence of a bear, or we wouldn't be here. They would already be
right.
discovered.
But how intelligent and stuff, because they see planes go over, helicopters go over. How do they know how to hide?
Not even that.
Right? They're smarter than the gorillas, right? We don't have them in zoos.
Right.
If they're intelligent, smarter than gorillas, they can learn how to swim if they never get attacked by anything in the swamps or in the lakes.
They'd have to have the intelligence. They'd have to have the intelligence of other hominids that we've known existed on the planet.
But we have those level of intelligence in zoos and on trail cameras, and we can track them.
No, I'm talking beyond. I'm talking Neanderthal, Australopithecus, all the Pithecanthropus,
But a lot of those had small brains and weren't very smart.
Yeah, but a lot weren't.
So I mean,
Neanderthals. I mean, like, come on, like
they had clothes and stuff, right?
Yeah,
they made clothes, they made art, they made jewelry.
Along those, like Denisovans, all that kind of stuff. So, like, those were human, like they weren't modern day humans like us, but they're in the human species, the human genome. And so it would have to be something like that with that kind of intelligence. And then, like, with God knows what else, not supernatural superpowers, but some kind of, like, really inbred, it's in their DNA to be elusive, and avoid us. I mean, that's the only way it could be. Otherwise, it'd just be like if you took a chimp and threw it in the middle of St. Louis, it would just walk around and go, whoa, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I compare that to this is something that I've talked about a lot in the past when I'm trying to compare it to other large vertebrate mammals that exist in the wild. Okay. And when I look at white-tailed deer and I'm bow hunting in a stand and I'm watching deer move around me and they're not aware that I'm there, and I watch how they react to different things, different sounds, when they get spooked, they all cookie cutter react the same way. There is no room for they perceive stuff differently. And the reason is because from a very young little age, when they were born with the little spots on them, they spent every day of their life learning to react all the same way. This is what you run from. This is what you startle from. This is what makes you do this. This is what makes you do that. You don't see some deer do this and some deer react that way. In the face of danger, they all react the same way, right?
I think a lot of that's just in their nature.
It's a response, and I'll tell you why, Pat, because I don't think when you compare it to humans, some humans are braver, some humans are stupider, some humans are ignorant, some humans are ornery,
We're very diverse. Yes.
Some humans are pissed off, right? We have the way that our brain works.
We're complicated.
We develop different ways about the way we process things. And so when somebody has a school shooting or they break in and rob a store, some people are huddled in the corner crying on the floor. Other people are running after the guy with the gun trying to tackle him. People react differently. And I think that's because of the way our thought processes work. And if we're talking about an upright hominid with a developed brain, I think it's a combination of things that are elusive and they respond this way and that way, this way and that way. But I also believe that there is a curiosity factor that plays in, that there is a personality factor that could play in, that you start seeing unpredictable nature in how they may respond to something.
Sure. There can't be too much of that. It can't be too much of that.
That's
why they like to dig in garbage around suburbs.
It likely isn't a lot of that, but I'll tell you, it could be why one responded to hearing music and it was intrigued and it didn't walk right up to something and be stupid. It was still elusive and kept its distance, but it was intrigued enough to try to figure out a source, or it was intrigued. It didn't just run away, And so it made a conscious decision to react some way instead of having that decision be fired by neurons and everything else that sends it running on an automatic default basis.
Yeah.
There's something at play in that I think makes all these different encounters that I'm not talking about all the bullshit contrived stuff, although I don't know which ones are and which ones aren't. But out of the 20 different ones, let's say, of people that I've heard that I think I believe they're telling the truth, they aren't all cookie cutter. They aren't all the same. They don't all involve the same reactions to things. And I think there's an unpredictable nature to that because we're talking about something that may process thought not the same as a human, but in some cases similarly to where it isn't a cookie cutter science to that. There is a personality. There is a instinctive, something that goes beyond instinct.
Yeah. Well, the fact they haven't been discovered in hundreds of years of amazing human existence here in North America.
They'd have to learn something.
There's not
teach
a lot
their
of
young
dots.
ones to learn.
Well, I mean, the whole rare and elusive law just kind of has.
Well, yeah, but they would have to. You'd have to, for them to even survive in modern times or migrate. They'd have to learn about people's habits.
That means
what a farm does compared to what a neighborhood does, right? An industrial park compared to everything else. I mean, I'm sure they've had plenty of time to like study and learn people's habits, camping and stuff, people engaged in stuff.
I don't buy into that at all. I say the opposite.
Then how? Well, they would walk downtown like every other animal, or they would walk in front of cameras. They would walk in front of.
No, it's a simple thing. It's like, they would just be in the areas where those things don't exist, because they see people and they go, "Oh shit, there's people," and they do that. Period. They don't go, "Whoop, knock."
After centuries upon centuries,
and intelligent, and they're comfortable in the area.
I want to ask a fair question. I think it's a fair question, but after centuries upon centuries of watching humans from a distance, let's say, don't you think it would be plausible that they could figure out how to create fire? Or even when lightning strikes a tree, to be able to preserve fire, or use fire for warmth in the dead of winter in the middle of Saskatchewan and it's 20 below? I've seen 1,000 humans from a distance start fires. Wouldn't I figure it out?
There's some reports of that. I mean, it's all anecdotal, but
see, forget the reports. I'm a total advocate of what Jeff's saying, is that it's possible.
But deer don't need that. There's animals in that same environment that don't have fire and survive.
I'm talking about upright hominids with opposable thumbs who are warm-blooded and not cold-blooded and don't have...
I'm an advocate that could happen. Here's the catch. The catch is that it would never happen around... There'd be no person within 100 square miles.
If there was elusivity...
Or 20 square miles,
Yeah.
There's no one there to observe it. Yes.
The one thing we need to understand is greater than its need to eat, greater than its need to drink or breed or anything, sleep, greater than its any need that it has to exist is its need to be elusive. It has had to have figured that out over thousands of years of existence. That if it's not elusive, it's dead. It is dead if it's not elusive. Okay?
And that means...
And if that is the number one factor of survivability, I think you're right, Pat. Even if it figured out how to make a fire, it would never do it if it knew that it was within 50 miles of a human being.
And it would also... The opposite of elusive is engaging. And so again, back to the narrative.
The campfire stuff and the
why would Bigfoot show up within 200 feet of your camp and knock on a tree and whoop and they're communicating with each other, they're warning each other? Well, why would they need to warn each other? Why would they
I think it's all intelligent curiosity, man. The word.
Okay, curiosity can be done from a distance. If they're elusive,
well, you have personality. You hyping your boys up. Let's go mess around with the humans again. I mean, we don't know. We don't know.
I do know, because it's as simple as this: if they were that curious and engaging, they would be discovered. End of story. Somebody would have went pop pop.
But it's always on their terms though, because if they initiate or they could run away at any time.
Are you kidding
we can't.
me?
I mean.
What do you mean it's not on our terms? We're human beings.
Well, I mean, when a Bigfoot shows up at your camp,
we're gods
you just, happen to get lucky, right?
No.
I would say most encounters, or if the Bigfoot's close, the Bigfoot decides if it wants to stay in the area, if it wants to mess with you, pick up a rock and throw it. I mean, if it doesn't want to do anything, it's not going to do anything. Just
the human being has a decision whether it's going to engage back. At some point, there would have been an engagement back.
I would agree with what you said, Blake, that ultimately it's going to make that decision. But I also believe that it makes the decision to be elusive 1,000 times to the one that it decides not to. Meaning, for every time a human being has had a sighting or has been aware that they're in the presence of a Bigfoot, there is 1,000 times that they've been in the presence of a Bigfoot and they weren't aware, because that Bigfoot decided, I'm out of here and I'm not going to make my presence known, and I'm going to slide out the back door and I'm going to avoid this confrontation. I believe that happens 1,000 times for every one time that a human being, all of a sudden something happens where they're aware that they're around one. It would have to be the case. And I've seen the opposite, where I've seen big game animals do stuff that is totally untextbook, that doesn't make sense. I've been in a ground blind watching deer 400 yards away from a field with a decoy out, waiting for those deer to come make their way towards me. And I'm sitting there rattling antlers to make it sound like two bucks fighting. I'm sitting there grunting on a grunt call. And all of a sudden I look out my side window, and standing this far from the window of my blind is a little spike buck looking right in my blind, staring at me. And I'm like, where the fuck did this guy come from, first of all? And second, why is he doing this? He's close enough that he should smell me. He's close enough that he should hear me talking to the person I'm hunting with. This totally is not textbook. And there are times where you will see the animal kingdom react, not often, but there are times where it is unpredictable. Like, why did that animal do that? That does not make sense. And so I can't, because of that nature, that unpredictable nature, I don't think you can close the book and say it's impossible that a Bigfoot would ever do that. There's no way that they would.
It's not.
I've seen other animals do shit that there's no way they should be doing it, and they have. And so there's always that unpredictable nature. But I think when you factor into the thought process that an upright hominid would have, that has to be elusive to survive, I think there are times that its curiosity may get the best of it, and it ends up in eyesight of something, or it gets curious and walks to the edge of a tree line looking at a snowmobile trail because it hears something and doesn't realize that thing was closer than what it thought, and that thing saw it, and now it has to be elusive and get out of there. I think there are times where they could get caught with their pants down and have a confrontation that it really doesn't want to be in.
That could happen with the numbers of people that go on the woods, but not with Bigfooters. If their propensity was to engage with humans, they'd have been discovered hundreds of years ago. They'd already be in the books.
So I mean, the Native Americans talked about them, so
yeah. Well, like whatever. We've been here for hundreds of years. Like Europeans have been here for hundreds of years. Also, with our knowledge of the world and our expertise, we've been here a long time. They would have been discovered if their propensity was to engage with humanity. So, but
then again, Pat,
only law that they are not. They don't.
It brings us to what I think is the most fundamental talking point that supports their existence, is that for thousands of years, they've been drawn on cave walls all over the country, have been woven in, or all over the world, been woven into folklore, have been documented in drawings on cliffs and things, all kinds of stuff. And this is before the internet. This is before that person in that part of the world didn't talk to that person. There's no way one person got drunk around a campfire 6,000 years ago and invented a story of Bigfoot and somehow got that worldwide before modern exploration and before the internet. There's no way it could happen.
I agree. I understand your point. All I'm saying is if their propensity was to engage with humanity, let's just say the past 100 years, like they would have been long discovered decades ago. Because like there's just no way around the odds and the probabilities of, them being discovered if they're so engaging. And so like a slip up, you can calculate the slip up thing, but that would have to also be extremely rare.
Even more rare than,
yes. and that would have to coincide with the rareness of them, the rareness of the ability of them and us to come together as one and then slip up. So you're getting into that, like, 0.0 whatever, right?
I think when you start factoring in an
just
escalated, one, in order for it to be elusive, it has to avoid humans. And when it finds itself with a human coming into its range or its area, it has to make a decision. Can I slip out of here undetected, or what's going to happen? If they are in a position where if that human keeps coming, it's going to see my young, it's going to whatever, I need to get that human out of here. There is an escalated system, I believe, that starts out with little things, branches breaking. They know that humans a lot of times will react and say, "Ooh, I don't know what that was. That was scary. Let's walk the other way," right? Something thrown through the air and it comes crashing into a tree, and you say, I don't know what the hell did that, but we're getting the hell out of here. This is spooky, right? All of a sudden there's a vocalization, another level, and you're like, holy shit, I haven't heard anything like that before. Let's get the hell out of here. At what point does it escalate to where it says, I have to show myself to this human to get it out of this area? I think that it achieves its goal of getting that human to leave way before it needs to show itself.
I agree. No matter what, it all comes down to when you look at the realistic math and the realistic statistical probabilities, all those factors.
Yeah.
It completely destroys the narrative. No matter what.
That's where it's just
like
I think another thing is a lot more researchers or people are actively trying to seek out these things in a non-violent way compared to probably most of history, where I would say certainly the past 100 years, with the newspaper reports, there's a lot of posses chasing after these things supposedly, but with modern researchers and stuff, we're taking a very passive, friendly approach, hardly any aggressive. I don't think anyone's actually shooting at Sasquatches that we know of that we find valid. So, it might be that the peak curiosity, and we're actually, opening ourselves up a little bit compared to throughout history. Maybe that's a combination of why there are some sightings. There are some of this a little bit more so than other times throughout history.
What I don't know what you're describing, other than a few hundred people that go out in the woods looking for Bigfoot. And how,
compared to throughout history, there hasn't been a really lot of group of people going in the woods looking for these creatures.
So the only thing,
and so they would recognize that, and they might recognize these people are looking for us compared to. No, but they're intelligent enough to hey, these guys are campers over here. These guys are making these calls and kind of looking for us, kind of thing.
Okay,
they might know the difference, and they might be more open to.
So
react and be curious to that group looking for them instead of the group that's totally blind. They hear a wood knock, they don't care, they don't react. They hear a whoop, they don't react.
Right.
This other group reacts.
Do you know how far a wood knock carries in the woods?
Not
Maybe
that far.
Yeah,
200-yard radius.
So you're saying what you're saying
yards,
is what you're advocating for is the whole thing I'm against, is the idea that you could just plop yourself right down next to them.
Not necessarily, but
yes. I mean, you can't.
There's some areas where there's historical sightings of Bigfoot, and
okay, again,
there's either something there, or there's something not. There's something going on. There's not.
So you're saying where Bigfoot is?
There's areas where I believe there's Bigfoot, not 100% all the time.
How defined? How large of an area?
I mean, in lower Michigan and northern Michigan, it's not the wilderness. If you get up to the UP, there's wilderness areas in the.
Okay.
There's 30,000 acres, 20,000 acres, 5,000 acres.
Okay, so you're talking 20 square miles, 40 square miles.
Those are pockets.
We've come
and then,
to the 2-hour mark, guys, and I'm gonna go ahead. We can continue this conversation, but I know a lot of you want to head over to Squatch DTV. That's fine. Before you go, who was it? Smoky River wanted to know about Jeff's encounter and if he had any picture drawn of that. So I wanted to show you the cover of his book, The Pine Island Incident.
Yeah, that was I don't know. The guy who did that was somebody that Doug lined up. I was gonna actually have a picture drawn.
Yeah.
If anybody knows the story behind that, Lockbeard had a show on his channel, and we were in there one night, and I said, "Hey, tomorrow night I'm being interviewed by a large channel, very large channel, and they want me to share my encounter, and they're going to have an artist who was well known for this draw what I'm describing to them." And I was really excited to see this. And as a joke, I said in Lockbeard's deal, I said, I should describe the Cookie Monster and see if he draws that. I said it as a joke. Everybody knew I was joking. Everybody laughed. Okay.
No.
The next morning, I get an email from the person, the lady who's hosts the show, and says, "I will not have you on the show." And I was like, I was joking. I mean, but no,
that's how it happens, man.
Yeah.
You say one thing wrong and you get taken to the woodshed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can have final thoughts about, these conversations are going to keep happening and as long as we're skeptics and there's others that aren't, we're going to question things. I will always question the evidence, not so much the people. I really don't care either way. I have my friends and I care deeply about them, and I will make efforts to see them in person and really get to know them and meet up with them. But as far as the thousands of people who are now in this community and say they've had encounters, it's just another penny. Okay. And I'm looking for those half dollars, right? I'm looking for those special occurrences that have a little more meaning and maybe a little more evidence, harder to debunk. But I mean, we're all going to have that. And it's the evidence to me, footprints and videos, and not so much pictures for me anymore. I think pictures are gone to the wayside now. It's got to be something moving that we're going to be showing. Audio, they're great. I love hearing audio, but it doesn't have a whole lot of meaning without a video attached to it. It's just something really amazing. It's amazing. All of this stuff is amazing, especially when you put it all together. However, it's not going to take us very far for those of us who want it to go that way, who want to really have this proven, not just to our community or to us, but to the whole world. Okay. Because we're a very small community in relative to, the rest of the world who thinks we're a bunch of crazies out here. We're a small group. So,
world, you're right.
Yeah. Jeff, you have anything final to say?
Well, I was thinking about when Blake was talking about, when he goes out in this area that he feels is a high target area. Yeah. In the darkness, when you hear things and you think about the cover of darkness, how it's easy to start drawing this idea that these could exist. They could actually get closer and I wouldn't know they're there. It's, in that world of darkness, it's one thing. But when that sun comes up and the rest of the world wakes up and gets out of bed besides you and your buddies, and they're driving their tractors around and they're sitting in their game stands hunting and they're jogging down the wilderness trails and they're mountain biking and they're driving down every highway every few square miles, where do they go? It's a totally different
mystery
area. It's not the cover of darkness anymore. How could they exist in the daylight for 16 hours at a time elusive and undiscovered in all the areas the narrative is saying they are. That gets hard to process. Really hard to process. It's easy at night to say, holy shit, this thing could be 100 yards away and I wouldn't know it. You're absolutely right. But how's it going to exist 16 hours a day, day after day after day, when it's not dark and never be discovered?
I would only say that the only thing I would have to say with physical is they've learned areas that people just don't go often enough. They feel is comfortable enough to stay in.
They'd have to be comfortable just being dormant and laying on the ground in a pile of weeds and not moving for 10 hours.
Or in a swamp, maybe submerged in water and stuff too, if it's hot out. And that's the mystery right there.
All right. So my final thought is this. Yes. It's very, very simple. Is that it's not just you, Blake, but anybody in the Bigfoot world. You put me within 20 square miles of Bigfoot. No, they're definitely here. Definitely. They're 100% telling you Bigfoot's here. 20 square mile area. I'll discover them in one night. And we can all be millionaires. And we can all have our names attached to a Nobel Prize of the greatest biological discovery in human history. If you actually know where Bigfoot is, not you, Blake, I'm saying anybody in the Bigfoot world, they're definitely in this 20 square mile area. I can definitely discover them if they're actually there. And so that's my final thought, is that they're relatively that easy to discover if somebody actually knows they're there. It could be done. We have the technology. We could all be millionaires. That's like pretty cool, right? Lambos, chicks. Think about it, Blake. You and me cruise around in a Lambo. We got to
have a little hair on the breast, right?
Bro, you know it. You know it, just a little, not too much. But yeah, we could all be millionaires. So show me where Bigfoot is, and I'll discover Bigfoot, and we can all get rich off this shit. And it's gonna be great. That's my final thought.
I agree. I agree and disagree. I mean, with the technology, I just got a thermal and stuff. So if I'm hearing Bigfoot behind this bush, I expect I should see Bigfoot and the thermal and stuff. If that doesn't start happening, got to answer some questions or figure out what else is going on. So I think the window for them hiding is slowly closing. Although I think in summer the canopy doesn't help the drone, going to help find the Bigfoot.
No biggie.
But I think we should
6 months a year to discover is that's pretty good, man. It's a lot of time.
Yeah, I agree. Being out there with these areas with a thermal.
It's when you factor it in, though, Blake, and say you're one of 200,000 people who got a thermal, and this weekend, 2,500 of them will be out in the woods with the thermal looking for Bigfoot, and none of them are going to get them on their thermal.
Yeah, how do we explain that?
That's where it gets hard.
Thermal's for finding. It's the 4K camera and the spotlight for filming.
But you can't film at night with those.
Yeah, you can. You don't.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother show now.
That's
it's not another show.
Opened up a big old spotlight right there.
It's not another show. I'm telling you what I know to be true. The fucking 4K camera with a powerful spotlight on it on a drone with a 200 times zoom is all you need. Like, you're going to get the footage. Like, you could find a lost puppy in the woods. I've seen it. Like, this is already happening with drone deer recovery.
Did you see that recent video of the cops that found the autistic boy out there in the woods and he's dancing around? And they got some great footage of that.
Yeah. So, and I'm talking about a low level drone, the Matrice 30T, kitted out with a spotlight. Bam. That's Bigfoot right there. Like, if you're like, Bigfoot's right over there, I'm filming it. It's that easy, literally. So that's a low level.
But it hasn't come out yet, so it's not that easy.
Raptor, it's not you. I think that's Raptor.
No one's doing it. No one's doing it.
That's true. I would say, yeah.
No one. Like,
but they're in the areas.
I've talked to Mike about. I've talked to Mike, who does drone deer recovery. one of the biggest drone drone companies out there doing this kind of thing, he has no interest in Bigfoot or anything like that. Like, so he'd be the guy to do it. Like, I can hire pilots tomorrow. The problem is that
you need to just convince him to do it as a hobby.
No, a deposit is needed. Like, hey man,
$4 grand. About the ching-ching.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's expensive to hire pilots and travel them to wherever the hell I'm going, and all that expenses that come with that. It's like, no,
pull all our money together and buy a big old drone with a big thermal on it. And just pilot ourselves.
No, we don't pilot ourselves. I need the good pilots.
Technology will get cheaper, and they'll come a dime a dozen.
That's me saying that. I love flying drones, and I'm the one saying, no, I need a good pilot. Because they're trained in thermal signatures.
You used to have to pay a lot of money to build a website, and then 10 years ago, you could hire a 7th grader to do it for, a 6-pack of Coca-Cola and a bag of Doritos. And now I can do it at 56 years old on
get AI.
And we're getting to the point where as drone technology gets cheaper,
you put
and
AI
they get easier to use, in a couple of years, if you aren't getting it on drones, there's something wrong.
Oh, yeah. Not even. It's already here. So you could.
Oh, look who's decided to come to the party.
Yeah.
You're a little late, Mr. Tallwinds.
Yeah.
You can
out there in the woods or just partying on a Sunday.
Right now, you could build a swarm of drones to literally go search and look for.
I think that's where it's at. Those drone swarms.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look what happened to the nuclear triad today, or 48 hours ago. That was done with drones. But you could build a drone swarm right now, to go find.
But the problem is you can't fly these drones over most areas.
It doesn't matter.
Parks, state parks.
It doesn't matter. There's nobody there to enforce it. You just release them.
They're gonna know. Trust me, they're gonna know you flying drones in spots you're not supposed to.
No,
if you have an expensive drone. Yes, they are.
No.
You got to register them for one.
With what detection system? Drones don't show up on radar. Like, what detection system?
If you don't think the U.S. government has something to detect drones,
Russia
they
just
do.
Russia just lost 5 fucking airfields to drones. Thousands of miles away from Ukraine. Like,
you're not supposed to fly drones in the boundary waters. And if I go paddle 50 miles back into the boundary waters and pull out my backpack and pull out a drone and fly it, there ain't a damn person on this earth that's going to know that I'm doing it.
Dude, there's no.
If your drone hooks up to GPS coordinates, then it's going to be able to be tracked.
There's ways around
that. I have no idea.
I just shot Brent. Brent,
how do you think those airfields got blown up, bro?
It looks like we're not stopping talking, so it's up to you guys. If you want to keep on going with this, I'm all good with it.
Yeah, I will. My point is that there's no enforcement. Even if you wanted to release your,
I don't know until there is, and then you're slapped with a big fine and possible jail time.
Now that's the thing is the accountability. The threat.
You do not get put in jail for violating national airspace.
But there has to be a threat of accountability that's real. Meaning, if the people are patrolling up in the boundary waters and they say if you're caught with a drone on your possession, it's $1,000 fine. Guess what? I might not pack my shit anymore. Okay, right. There's accountability that people need to respect. And unfortunately, I don't think that accountability exists on a lot of.
I have flown. I have hours and hours and hours of flying drones in the North Georgia mountains, in the national forest, which is like they would say, boots on the ground would say, I'm not allowed to do. The national airspace says I'm allowed to do it, right? So that's completely.
Yeah, there's a constitutional crisis, I think,
and there
right?
is no. I have not once ever, even standing at the overlook, obviously, with the fucking controls in my hands, dude. Like, there's no enforcement. If you wanted to go looking for Bigfoot in remote areas, right, remote-ish, let's just say we're like rural, right? Mountains, national forest, whatever. Like, there's nobody out there to stop you. It's the Wild West. I'm a drone guy. I'm telling you,
yes
it's the
and
Wild
no.
West.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
I don't think that you're just doing it
at the same time. There are agencies that are going to tell you that it's illegal, and
no,
Pat, it's totally illegal to fly drones here. Actually, I don't.
You know what else?
Are you still allowed to fly drones, even though that they have the national park coordinated off? I don't think you can fly drones in there that are registered via satellite.
No, it's not. It is not geofenced. Not at all. Nope. It's not.
Yeah, drones are good. They're loud though.
That's a different thing. So, like, the vast majority of geofencing is around airports, for obvious reasons, right?
I don't think that the usefulness right now of drones would be looking in these super remote areas, trying to use them. I think what would be useful is to cross stuff off the map where we know they aren't. Let's go to the green swamp in Florida and drone swarm the green swamp a square 50 miles, drone swarm them every night for 30 nights in a row. And after 30 nights, when you don't have any geothermal footage, we're going to stop having the discussion that they exist there.
Nobody's going
to Well, but then you really need to do it all year round, because people are like, well, it wasn't the right season, or
exactly.
The next 30 days are there.
You'll just to get excuses,
They'll always be one day short of it for some people.
I would rather
when it comes to drones, though, when it comes to drones, people should also be looking at the land drones too, because there you can have a boom arm that can have a 360 camera on there, thermal camera, whatever camera, multiple cameras really, and have the land drones, basically a 4-wheel drive RC car pretty much, but more high powered and low energy, so you can actually keep it out there for a long period of time. And it's just that would probably work equally as well, if not better.
I mean, not equal. It's different. And with the right tactic, maybe equal. Like, it would be more like a moving, think of it more, Brent, like a moving trail cam kind of situation, right? Is kind of what, that's the way I would see it, is a mobile, trail cam.
I don't know, a nice water drone that you could swim up the creeks and stuff and swamps. That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. Because drones are good, the flying drones, but again, they're so loud that you can hear them from almost 700 feet away, which they could probably hear them from half a mile away. So they're already going to probably start getting man, is that either a drone or is it a big swarm of bees or something? But I think it might.
I don't think it does, because I say this again, I know what I'm talking about. I've flown them. I know what it.
But do you have a lot of real time experience though in the woods, flying it in the woods, and even getting underneath the canopy?
You're gonna hear them less in the woods. You're gonna hear them less because the trees are gonna deflect the sound.
They don't actually. Not really.
How long will it take to design a drone that masks its sound? I'm gonna build a drone that has an audible sound it gives off that sounds like a flock of geese, and it's going to mask the flight sound at all times.
Yeah,
market,
you could do that. You could put bullshit. You could put a speaker on a drone. Drones, you could attach anything to a drone. You can attack.
Yeah, but the power consumption is the problem.
Yeah. But you could attach a speaker to a drone to burst out geese sounds. That would actually mask the prop sound. It'd be louder. So it doesn't matter. I don't care who you are, Bigfoot or a person or a deer.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Yeah. By the time you hear a drone, by the time you hear a drone, it's already spotted you.
Maybe.
99% of the time, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's the power of the air, man. You can't deny the power of free flight through the air, 50 miles an hour, 360 degree, 3-dimensional travel space is that's an amazing superpower to have.
Even
it's definitely
even with the noise, you've got something that's going to have enough wide angle view of that area that if there is a Bigfoot, he either is going to have to immediately take cover, because I think, you still might have the potential to catch something.
Yeah, take cover where, like let's say
but
the scenario being in the mountains. In the mountains, in a canopy down situation, like there is no good place to take cover unless there just happens to be something convenient, like a patch of mountain laurel or
well, you also have down logs and down trees and bushes and other things that they could probably utilize.
But see, like all that thins out in the so it's not like the Pacific Northwest, like in these areas, Brent, which is like the entire Southwest to the Northeast. No, it's like Hiroshima, bro. There ain't no thick bushes unless it's mountain laurel or something like that. And again, that would have to be convenient. It's almost like saying, oh, maybe it ducks into a cave. Well, caves aren't common. So again, you're talking about convenience. No, you would be catching one out in the wide open. You'd be able to film it for half an hour, maybe longer.
Or get to that location also.
I don't think there's much of any
geolocated.
I don't think there's much of any blanket situation that you can apply evenly to that whole conversation. It's never the same. And in fact, I would say that prop planes, the sound of the prop wash on a plane has gotten to where, as props were advanced and designed differently and as systems were designed, they got quieter. It's different than it used to be. I would say that, again, I don't know how measurably different it is, but, taking a prop in the open that throws air disbursement and taking a prop with a ringed housing around it, still moving the air disbursement, but not throwing it out to the side as much,
drones
would be completely different audibly from a distance.
So, like, drones aren't as loud as people think, and I can tell you right now, like, as somebody who's experienced it firsthand, it's like, where's my drone?
Well, and I'll tell you, one thing you're not talking about, Pat, is any wind. You get over 5 mile an hour wind through the air, what you think you're hearing when it's still at 100 yards in the air, you won't hear that when there's an 8 mile an hour wind.
Yeah, I mean, or if
not even close.
If there's, let's say there's a loud creak, like that's going to mask the sound too, obviously. But no, my whole point is that, like, for the most part, and I mean almost entirely, once you hear the drone, it's on top of you. I could show you this proof positive in the woods. Say, go out in the woods. Tell me when you hear the drone, and I'll show you where you are on the screen. Like it's that pretty much that lock solid. So yeah, sound is not. It's just not a factor, even if there's that 1% chance, right, Jeff? Sure. So you're saying there's a chance,
No, drones are a good tool.
Create an equivalency for an argument. There's no equivalency.
Yeah, drones are a good tool. They're a good tool. They're not the end all be all. They're just another tool in the wheelhouse that we have to use. That I don't know. It would be nice to get some more conclusive evidence with people that have drones. I actually really like the first person view drones. Shane was flying one when we were up there, when me and Tristan and stuff. And, it's the first person, so you have the goggles. So you can actually go under the canopy between the trees, especially if you got a really skilled pilot. That could be a huge game. That's big right there.
Totally different. That's totally different from what I'm even talking about, because you're right, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
When you can put a drone in a pursuit mode like that, it would be crazy if it identified something and went into that pursuit mode.
And it can. Again, the technology exists. So when I talk about swarms, that's one of the swarms you could deploy in the woods. Let's say you thought you hear a whoop. That's definitely Bigfoot. And you happen to have that 10-pack swarm, right? Like, dude, AI controlled. And what Brent's talking about, you don't even need a pilot. AI can do it.
True. That's true.
10,000 times better. 10,000 times.
Have you seen
We're just not quite there yet with that, though.
drone operators that do the movie stunts and all that, and they are flying like so technical.
And
through
my point is,
all
like,
kinds of
all that technology actually exists right now. You
Mm-hmm.
could put together a swarm of drones with AI capabilities to do that. You could put a swarm of drones to be high up. You could put a mothership that could spit out other drones. Like, all that technology exists, even for civilians, right now. Like, you can.
Yeah, but the
you
cost
can make
is
it,
like $100,000.
yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
When
At
you
least.
just, again, let me remind you, you just discovered Bigfoot, and now you're a multimillionaire, and your name is on Nobel Peace Prize. Not Nobel Peace Prize, but a Nobel Prize. So, like, a $50,000 investment would make perfect sense if you could actually discover Bigfoot, yet no one's doing it.
Yeah, I need to get a sugar mama or something for that bad boy. Cause I ain't spending $50,000 on a drone.
Bring up Elon Musk or something. Just give us a
Yeah.
I mean,
change.
dude, people do like what Kickstarters and GoFundMes for Bigfoot, like dumb Bigfoot shit, like ridiculous, stupid, dumb Bigfoot shit that raised at least that much, if not more. And
what about something like this?
Making new documentaries and stuff.
Have you guys seen those new air bikes that they're coming out with?
Air bike. What?
Yeah, like motorcycles in the air.
Yeah, like
like quads or something.
Like Star Wars speeders.
Yeah.
Everything's coming to realization. Everything's.
Yeah, I mean, that's not. I don't think that's practical at all for looking for Bigfoot. But yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Could be cool though. I'd probably fly on one of those bad boys.
Chasing a Bigfoot on that with the cameras.
Yeah, sure. Sweet. I mean, I'll tell you this: if you got on one and filmed yourself doing it, and you had an action cam and all that cool shit, and you said you were looking for Bigfoot, I don't know, 5 million views later. I mean,
yeah, but
you know, yeah.
But the wind washed and the sound from these ones here is so insane.
Yeah,
the rules and regulation will probably be also insane.
Well, it's an aircraft. I mean, again, like like this, where they're flying, 20 feet above the ground. That's not really an airspace issue. But technically, it's an aircraft. So again, we're getting back into like, what are the, what does the FAA actually have to say about this?
Right, but in 5 years, there could be a whole new other means.
But I say like, this looks cool. I would do this actually. But take again, I'm the practical guy. We'll take the pilot out of the equation. Like, we already have the AI software that can, do.
Now, Pat, you don't want to have to be doing a show in 2 years saying I was wrong about the motorcycle speeders.
Oh, hey, yeah, I was going to ask about that. I didn't get to watch all that. How'd that go?
Well, it turned out that I was actually right and Jeff was wrong. That was the big reveal.
I missed that part. That part.
I know she had some fans in the chat there, making friends with everybody, huh?
Hey man, I got all kinds of narcissist fans. You have no idea.
Mr. Popular.
No idea.
Came out of nowhere.
My videos, brother.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like the things that you were saying weren't right. I mean, for the most part, you are. Except for one thing I will have to call you out on is you weren't the first to start talking or putting it all to that it's a people thing. Like me and Leon's been talking about that for years. It's actually even on your show too. It is a people thing, and that's what you see with this right here, like the cans thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Video to cans.
Well, I don't know what you're calling me out on, like with being late.
No, that was it. That was pretty much it. It wasn't a real big call out.
Being late to the party kind of thing. Or
yeah. It's okay though.
Yeah, no.
But you made some really good points. You made some really good points that should be.
We've had so many hours, like all of us, except Blake. I mean, Blake's been there for an hour or two, but we've had so many hours together, like you, me, Nikki, and Jeff, and Leon, and everyone else. Like, you guys,
good times.
You guys helped shape me. Like, this isn't.
Oh me. God! Don't put that on us, Pat. Jesus,
your guys' fault, huh?
No, I think we all helped each other better understand the psychological conditioning that goes into Bigfoot research, and some of the people that are actually making the claims, why they're making their claims. I think that was all those discussions that we've had over the years on your show primarily. It was I think they were so worthwhile, and I think is really starting to come to fruition, and everybody's really starting to better understand that. And you can just see it with how things are starting to go now. And you'll always have like the outliers of the the not so real content, but it is.
But there's pushback, and to be honest with you, like that's a burden I don't want to bear anymore, Brent. It was all fun back in the day, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's why I don't really do it as much. That's why I don't really do. Yeah, I don't do it as much, just for that reason, because it's like it brings a lot of nastiness into.
Yeah, a lot of nastiness. Right. So that's an easy spot right there.
Something.
Like, it's an ungulate out there in the wide open. Pretty easy to spot. You see how far the drone away is. Like, now that's pretty wide open. This is okay. So those are pines. Bam, there they are. And so that is not a canopy down situation, and you clearly see their. I don't know if those are pines or not. Actually, they might be.
Well, that canopy, that's what you're looking at. It was going back and forth in the canopy. That's what you can't see anything, and then they went to the thermal, and you could see stuff. But
and so the thermals for spotting. And again, it all depends on exactly where you're at. So, like, to film that subject right there, in real time, like without thermal in a spotlight, would be like lit up. They'd be lit up. It'd be very.
But you haven't shown one video there where the subject being videoed would have ever heard that drone. Not if there's 5-8 mile an hour wind, they wouldn't have heard it at all.
Yeah, the deer don't care about.
No, I'm saying if you had a human there and said, "Tell me when you hear a drone," you wouldn't have heard that from that distance.
No,
not that those are filming from.
No, that drone was.
And look how clear the images are.
That drone looked to be about 400 feet in the air.
Look how clear the images are. I mean, you never would have heard that.
Right.
Yeah, you can't. You're not going to hear a drone 400 feet right above your head. Like, highly unlikely.
No, I when Tate brought his to Bumping Lake, he has a altimeter on it, and it shows you how far or how high it is. And I think I first started hearing it, or definitely it was around 800 feet, 800 feet from me alone. But it's just one of those things.
It's a different sound when it's right above your head. It could be different if it's like at an angle in front of you. Again, man, like, I've been in situations I'm like, where the hell's my drone? Like
it takes off.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, I see myself on the middle of the screen. I'm pointing the drone at myself. I can't hear it. I can't see it. Where the hell is it? I have to start moving it around. I'll start wiggling it to like catch it in my eye. But yeah. I mean, look, there's no doubt they're powerful tools. Like, you can't.
No, I'd love to get a drone, but I think I'm going to get a land drone. Because they're cheaper, and I could do more with it as far as putting gear on it. Like put a camera on it, or even like, because I found this one video. It's this huge ass RC car, right? And he put a boom arm on it that he has this like DSLR camera on, which looks really good and stabilized. And it's like, damn, so much potential.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is definitely an extension of yourself. Let's say, right, if you're out there in the woods and like boots on the ground kind of situation, like that would be an extension of yourself. The thing with the drone is like it's an extension of yourself to like 10 miles away. Like, like, again, like you can explore 10 square mile area, even like pretty thoroughly in the right conditions. It's a force multiplier that's almost incalculable,
Well, yeah, especially if you can like spot them and then send a ground crew in to maybe get a better location on them, and even
not if it's even 2 miles away. Like you just take the drone like there, and you light it up in the spotlight and you film it. I know it sounds idealistic. It's not. It's realistic because that's what
you get people over there to push that creature, then film it as it
no, you
runs
don't
away from the group.
You're not moving 2 miles through the damn woods at night. I'm sorry. Like it'll take you half the night to go that distance.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends
So-
on the
Well, no,
situation.
I mean, if you look at it strategically, you could like, you can spot them, let's say with a thermal or whatever, and then, you could send a ground crew. Hopefully there's a nearby road or whatever. I don't know that you can get down into that area and then maybe go flush them out. Or, I mean, I don't know. There's different ways to game plan it.
You just go film with the drone. Again, just like drone deer recovery does. That's how they find deer that are wounded and dying. That's their job. And
I think just getting group out there with potential to see it firsthand with the eyeballs, more cameras, more equipment, getting evidence of it.
Absolutely.
Again, dude. I'm sitting there on the overlook, and I've got like all kinds of range with my drone. I could literally fly it 20 miles away and land it if I wanted to. You ain't getting to anywhere unless it's like right on top of us. It's like you're.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you're not walking there. You ain't driving there. We're talking about places where there are.
Or I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it wouldn't work if there's a place that has no roads, but having a coordinated ground support there to better collect evidence, even.
Yeah,
because if you can collect hair or prints or something, that would definitely be worthwhile for the investigation.
It'd kind of be the opposite of what you guys are thinking. The realistic thing would be to use a drone for overwatch. If you were at your camp, your Bigfoot camp, and you wanted to go on a night hike, right? Or you wanted to see what is around you when you start hearing that weird stuff, deploy a drone and it can see what.
Yeah, no. That's something that I like that Expedition Bigfoot did, is they actually set up tethered drones. So when they're ready to deploy, they could just like untether them and then boom, full power, and they're already up in the air, ready to go.
Yeah. It doesn't take long to turn on a drone, acquire GPS and put it up in the air.
Yeah.
It could be done in 30 seconds. So if it's within even 200 yards of you, it's not going to escape in 30 seconds. It's not going to go a mile away, right? Theirs
were deployed in different areas. So you have one here with tether, then you have one that's however far. They basically covered an entire lake, so it's a lot smarter to have the multiple. Oh yeah, I mean that's just what they showed, but it's strategically that's ideally would be perfect to cover a large area with something like that.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of strategies that people can come up with, and probably a lot that I haven't thought of. I'm just kind of tied to one, which is you show me where Bigfoot is, and I'll show you a Bigfoot, and we'll all become millionaires. Hey man,
you should come to that Bluff Creek thing this year.
I can't, man. When is it?
Second week of July, I think.
Oh God,
July 11th.
Yeah, I think you should really go. I think it would be really good and beneficial for you to come to something like that.
I would love to, Brent, and I appreciate the sentiment, man. I appreciate. I can hear it in your words, but that's impossible for me. That's
okay.
I mean, dude, you might as well be saying, "Hey, man, bro, you should go buy a Ninja H2 next week." Ain't happening, man.
Yeah. Let's get one of those speeders and be there in no time.
Yeah, be there. I'll fly myself there.
Save time.
I mean, screw that, dude. I can just get a trike or maybe like a motorized paraglider. I don't know how long that would take. Maybe it would take weeks, but yeah, man.
All you'd have to do, Pat, is get a ticket to El Paso, and then we could drive out there, and I have all the gear you'd need, so that would be the only thing you'd need would be a ticket to El Paso.
A drive?
Boom.
Drive from El Paso to the Pacific Northwest.
I'm driving because I want my stuff with me.
Yeah.
What, dude? That's like, what is that, like 2,500 miles or something?
It's a lot. It's like
he's
almost
gonna El Paso on that idea.
I mean,
well, you can fly into a place. You can fly into a place that she's driving by, so she can just pick you up.
Yeah, but what do I do with Pete? Petey, come here.
Oh yeah.
Bring him.
Yeah, he's small enough.
Your emotional. Just tell me your emotional support animal.
What?
Gonna let you ride on the plane.
Squash bait.
Pete is my emotional support animal, even though he's not.
Yeah.
Hey, what? Like I take off work, dude. I don't have any more PTO time at work. Like I blew it all on dumb shit, like not wanting to go drive my motorcycle in the rain to work. Stupid shit like that. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, if you're able to make it, that'd be awesome if you could.
And it
sounds like they're
at Bluff Creek.
Yeah, I think so. It's at Loud. Well, it's like the valley area there, Louse Creek, I think it is, or Louse Camp.
It means they're going to be an actual like go to Bluff Creek sort of like expedition attached to that.
Actually, I don't even know what's kind of going on. I don't even know who's putting it on. I know Tate and Nikki invited me. That's literally all I know. Apparently, it's like a yearly thing that people go to and stuff. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
No reference of any of this ever happening before.
Well, Blake said,
yeah, I mean, Blake, you should come, man.
Yes, invite Blake. Thank you.
I'd have to rent a car, and drive, and like Pat said, taking off work and stuff. I mean,
yeah, it's tough. But if you can, it's like the second week of July.
All right, so that's
like, be there on the 11th.
6 weeks from now. Let's see. How can we pull that off, Pete? Come here.
Damn it! Start an OnlyFans or something. Get Pete an OnlyFans. Something I don't know. A dog cam. Well, what's Petey up to today?
Yeah, he's being lazy dog.
No, but I think going to stuff like that, I don't know. It's I think you'd really like it, Pat, because I noticed that your journey in this subject has really done a complete like 180.
Well, sorta. I'm just I mean, it's more like a 360. I started this journey.
I guess, yeah.
I started this journey going, why the fuck are people seeing monkey men in the woods? And that's where I'm at now. The only thing I've explained is the psychological aspect of the subject. That's the only thing I've explained. It's like, there's this huge psychological aspect that is, nonsense, basically. Delusion.
Here's the destined long shot that would likely happen is Pat would go there. Everybody'd be talking about it for the week or two coming up to it. Everybody'd be out there, Facebook and live, all that shit. And then Pat would actually have an encounter.
Oh, shit. That would be hilarious, man.
Great.
That would be hilarious.
And then he's like, I can't tell anybody. Like, I have to take this to the grave with me.
I know. I thought about that. I've thought about, what if I run into one of these things? What do I do with that? Because I don't think anybody would believe. Like, I think everybody would go, dude,
the question is, what would happen if you ran into it on a Bigfoot outing with other Bigfooters?
Right, and just
completely
contradict my own opinion, right?
Yep.
And obviously I'm not afraid to go public and say I was wrong. So, right? I mean, can I get that credit at least? I'm not afraid to say, hey guys, I was wrong. And I'm not known as a liar. No one's ever accused me of being a liar in the Bigfoot world. That's for sure. There's a couple girls here and there in my life, whatever. I don't want to talk about that, but
no, you've always been straightforward for the most part. Even when you're wrong, you've always been straightforward and believed it, and hold your own with it. So yeah, I'll give you that.
Wear it on my sleeve by default sometimes, but
you do, and that's what I really like about you, because you're like the most transparent person I think I know on here. It's like
well,
you're
like that means the world to me for you.
No, you are. It's like because you put it all out there. Like sometimes it's like, whew, man, I would not have done or said that, but
yeah,
you know, you do, and that's cool. That's cool though. That makes you you, and you know, you're cool with that. And you know, I know you're getting some heat right now from Brian and all his posse and stuff, which you know, it's normal drama. It'll blow over, because you know you're not the only one who thinks that. You know, a lot of people do, and what they did, you know, with the whole Cairns thing, you know, that was a straight up lie because they posted, "Hey, we're going to Cairns to show the film" or something like that. Posted this, you know, they made a post about it. Then they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to Cairns," and then now they're saying, I don't even know what they're saying. I need to watch that, but some wild stuff there.
Showing the documentary out in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that they filmed. They filmed.
Oh yeah.
I heard the story and
they filmed the
filming and all that, but I don't know of the kind of conflicting stories going around.
So they capped their documentary in the Pacific Northwest. That's where they capped it.
Right.
Very
their encounters.
But you know, here's the thing. You know, here's the thing. One of the world's best documentarian, Werner Herzog, right? He even says that you do have to, if you want to make a documentary for entertainment, which is what they're doing, you are going to have to lie. You're going to have to deceive your audience because, you know, to really show it in its true form and be entertaining is really hard to do. And, you know, I highly encourage anybody to go look up Werner Herzog and you know, see what he says about this
drama.
Yeah, and sometimes you need the drama, between the people and stuff. It's all for entertainment because if you make a Bigfoot documentary, it's going to look like something that we would make. It's like, man, this is boring. What are we on? Like 20 minutes in already? Okay,
there's nothing going on. Yeah,
well, exactly.
So
that's why I can't even make videos anymore. It's like it's too boring.
I have the same issue.
To give Todd Standing credit where he deserves it is as simple as this: is that I mean, he realized a long time ago. He's like, well, if I'm going to make a Bigfoot documentary, Bigfoot's got to show up at the end. Like that's the smartest play, you know.
Well, then there you go with the PG film, because Roger and Bob were filming a documentary, and they just actually got the real Bigfoot. Apparently, it makes me wonder if the PG film was filmed today, released today, with the characters involved, the history that we know of them. Would we actually even accept it, or would it be rejected?
They would have dismantled the backstory before they even examined the front.
Well, even with like the fake Bob Gimlin that they had going around town and stuff.
It'd be so convoluted. It's weird. I mean,
Bob's saying that he doesn't know how to operate a camera, but he did film, or someone's filming Robert. You know, that kind of sort of thing. So I mean.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, hey, what's up with that whole Gatewood stuff? I'm sorry, I did not know what you guys talked about the last couple hours. So,
not Gatewood.
Okay.
Gatewood was never mentioned as far as
man, isn't that some crazy stuff though? Like, is anybody surprised? Like, anybody surprised by that? Where it's like, hey, I got this Bigfoot footage. I'm doing all this awesome enhancement, and guess what, bitches? None of you're gonna see it because I sold it to some LLC in Nebraska or something.
Right.
Man, that is like, that is literally like, man, that is a bad plot to a movie or something. That's like so stupid. It's so revealing, actually. No, it's so revealing.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know. I'm hearing stuff in the background that's
really about, well, let's prove it. Money wouldn't matter. Let's prove it. But if you go sell it to someone else,
you know what I don't like. You know what I don't like is it's the way he went about it. Like he's like, oh, Bigfoot community, you deserve this. You know, with them saying, hey, you know, I'm selling it, and you guys are never going to see it, and you guys deserve it. And it's like,
it's some weird stuff, you know.
It is some weird stuff, man.
If it was about proving it and coming out with the truth, right? Never before seen stuff, the truth. Why would you sell it? You know, didn't that truth matter to you?
You know, and my guess,
like a mission to like bring that stuff out.
My guess, he only had one frame that he did an enhancement on, or he did an enhancement, and it just looked like crap because we all know that the head enhancement that he did and the full body enhancements are two completely different processes. We all know that. You can visually see it, but we also learned from the conversation that I had with him and stuff. So it's like he himself can't even replicate what he originally did. So it's like, it's just probably like one big mess to the point where it's just, I think he finally gave up on it because he realized that he's never going to be accepted in the Bigfoot community for what he does.
Could be, yeah. I don't know. I didn't hear that. I thought I was still waiting on the big stuff to drop.
Yeah, nope. Yep. So yeah, if you go on the coalition or go on his Facebook page, he wrote a big post about it, how, you know, he sold it to the LLC and we're never going to see it likely. And tough luck. We deserve it because we suck.
What are they going to do with it then? Why? How come we're not going to see it? What was the purpose of selling it to them? If
I don't know, a way to get it out of his hands.
We were all just going to open our arms and say, oh, yes, you know, thank you for doing this great service. But that's not what happened.
And there's a real, and there's a real dispute about the actual film that he used, or, you know, said he used. You got the Jane and Bruce McAfee film, which is supposed to be like a first gen copy. But, you know, Ed Beckford is said to have likely switched those copies around, so it's actually a second generation copy. And Beckford has the actual first generation, not the original, apparently, because nobody seems to know where the fuck that is. It's probably in Patricia Patterson's like freezer somewhere, like got frostbite or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I did actually find the location where it was allegedly developed at the Ford movie theater. I took pictures and stuff. I don't think I posted them yet, but and I went in there and talked to this lady. She's only like 19 years old, and she's like, what? I don't know, Bigfoot. So she was zero help, actually. And there's nobody else there. And but when I go back to Seattle to get my camera, this other camera that's getting fixed, I want to talk to the people there and see if I can get some more information, because I'm like, I can't find anything online, like some of the Facebook groups locally and stuff. But that'd be cool to see about getting that verified.
Well, you know, everybody that Gatewood has associated with, he has blocked from them. You know, if he wants to say something to you, he'll unblock you, say his thing, and then he blocks you again.
Send that to me like 4 or 5 times. It's like, shit, man, you want a response? Let me stop blocking me. It's like, damn, dude. It's like, it's just, I don't know. He's just, he's just another one of the many characters that you will find in this subject that will try to have it be their own, or try to make a claim, or try to establish themselves in it for whatever reason. But you'll notice that there's a lot of people in this subject that try to do that, and I feel Todd's one of those people, and it didn't work for him.
Well, he certainly got off the back of MK, and they had their own argument, and then, you know, it's just like,
you're right.
I calling him a liar about this, and then like I'll prove you wrong, or prove you whatever, like the massacre theory was right, and then it was fake, and then it's like, now I was supposed to
debate MK Davis about the whole massacre theory that they had going on and stuff, and just really kind of put it to bed. But he backed out the week before because he found out, people that I associated with. All right, man. I'll talk to you later. It's good to see you again, man.
Yeah, nice seeing you guys. Appreciate your time, and it was fun talking.
Don't be a stranger.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's an interesting subject, the whole Bigfoot thing. You know, I don't know how I feel about it now at this point. I'm like 10 years in almost, and I just still don't know. Like I went to the OP and stuff, hung out with them, and you could see the history within the building and see like some very legitimate footprints. Like, holy shit, those look real. And just hearing the stories that people have said out there, or like the experiences, like them actually people seeing them there and stuff, or just in the whole area and stuff. It's like, man, that's really it can really revitalize your interest and passion in the subject for something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's definitely some beautiful area out there, thick and wet. It looked like you You got the weather while you were out there for sure. But
yeah,
I wanted
last
you
weekend. Yeah, last weekend was a lot of fun. We went up to the Swaddle Valley there, up near that seed farm and stuff, and yeah, it was a lot. It was just me and my girlfriend, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. Great weather. It was great weather, and I did fall in the river though. That sucked. Drank a little too much and fell and hurt my tailbone. It still hurts.
Yeah. You didn't.
That's not fun.
Ruin any cameras?
Be careful out there, man.
I know. I was going back across the river to go get her water bottle because I was going to be like, hey, I'll go do it, blah, blah, blah. And I was being a jackass about it because I was drinking and I fell. And then it looked like even more of a jackass. So it's like, geez. Not only that, I didn't even get her water bottle. So it's like, shit. It's an epic fail on my part.
Well, I have a prediction.
What is it?
I'll say it here. It's like, I don't like these things are not going to be discovered. These questions are not going to be answered. It's just going to continue on to be the mystery element that is legit, right? I'll admit, legitimate mystery element is only going to continue. I just don't think there's going to be answers ever. I don't think there's ever going to be.
Thomas Ember agrees with you. He thinks if this isn't discovered in the next 5 years, that probably not.
Man, like I guess I can project. Another 5 years. Again, it just goes back to the kind of how I understand the world, which I'm just gonna say I know to be true. It's like, man, the technology's here right now. Like the effort could be put forth, it could be done.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is like Bigfooters don't really like working together either. So you don't get really good big collaborations with people because, a lot of A-type personalities in the group and in the subject to the point where it's like really rare to find people you can actually it's really rare.
But I'm already beyond that. And I just say, I could pay $50,000, $50,000. We gave me all the professionals I need on the observational side, on the biological side, the collection of biological evidence. None of them Bigfooters, not one of them. Hey, they're there to get paid. That's it. And people will do that. That's a very easy trigger to pull. You go, $50,000 to pay all the right professionals to actually go investigate this. And what's my return? Tens of millions of dollars. Again, back to that. Nobel Prize, all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a no-brainer. But I don't think they're there. Like they're either extinct or on the verge of, or they're magical beings, which then you're chasing ghosts, right? If they're from planet Hairtron, what the hell are you gonna do with that? Like a drone's not going to do anything. You know what I mean? Like they'll shoot it out of the sky with the laser beams of their eyes, right? Like whatever.
As long as you film that, we can show it.
Yeah, get that on film. Right? Good.
That's the last thing the drone saw. Yeah, right. And at that point, I'm like thinking, attaching C4 to drones. Like, let's get these Hairtron beings. Like at that point, let's drop nukes on them, see what happens. Like again, so it's got to fall in there somewhere. Realistically, even going into the sort of the wooey thoughts, which is like thought nothing but thought, it's got to fall in there somewhere. And I just look at it now, everything I've seen, the past decades and everything all put together, dude, my little brain just computes out, these things are not going to be discovered. Because I don't think there's an undiscovered upright walking primate living in North America in 2025. And if it is, it's like that fucking movie, that lame movie that, where they all died.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're probably right. Because, if we were seeing them in all the lower 48, as much as people were claiming, you'd figure we would definitely by now have more physical evidence and not such subjective evidence that is like,
I
say a red circle around that bad boy.
I say outright they be discovered. Like, there's a reason why they haven't been discovered. That's the question. Like, that's the whole thing to fall back on. It's like, when you look at what reality spits out as a undiscovered primate, upright walking, especially, again, the most amazing biological discovery ever in human history. Like, what does that look like? You know, and it only looks like one thing. Like, they ain't there, or they were in very low numbers, and they're certainly not marching around, you know, fucking Western Kentucky and in Tennessee, you know, in places like that, flat, you know, no cover, hundreds of thousands of people. Like, so that's not a thing. Again, unless they're from Planet Hairtron and they can manipulate themselves in ways.
Well, that's when you start getting into it.
We'll find out all these answers, you know.
I don't think we will, because if they're from Planet Hairtron, I don't see us like ever like busting that wide open in any kind
of way. We still know nothing about them. If we get a picture and be like, oh, well, shit, Bigfoot's real, we're still at square one where we don't know anything about them, how they live, anything like that.
Yeah, it's still going to be this long thing.
But here's the thing, is that if they're earthly, then you can make reasonable assumptions. Like, there are hard lines in the sand of assumptions that you absolutely can make. They're earthly. They eat, they bleed, you know, they live, they die, they birth, just like every other fucking animal on the planet, if they're earthly. And so what's the like on the other side of that is unearthly, which is anything from flying spaghetti monster to Planet Hairtron, whatever you assign, whatever your imagination can assign to it, it's just the unexplained. And so far, the only explanation for Bigfoot is they're unexplained. That's it. And so I don't see that changing anytime soon. You know, I just don't. Because none of it makes any kind of sense with reality at this point.
Yeah, that is true.
And we made our full circle. We definitely made a full circle. But here, you guys, I've been on for 3 hours. It's time to bring this to a close. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in and chatting for a little bit. It's been fun. It was actually really good discussion, I thought. And appreciate it. Thanks, Brent, jumping on and making us stay another hour. No.
Hey.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good to catch up.
It was.
So it was time to see everybody again. So everybody out there, don't forget to hit that like button before you leave. Whoever's left, everybody left to go to Squatch TV. My numbers went, woo. That's okay. People will come back and watch the end of the show.
Yeah, man.
Make sure to share it around. And thanks, guys. Keep it, stay squatchy, stay curious, you guys.